Hello, hello. Good night to y'all. We are back with the ACL. It's week 2 time. I am Sir Black P here to host and play-by-play for you. Glad to be back, and I am finally getting a chance to work with Dacker. So welcome in.
Thank you. I feel like we have been in this Aegis family for a while together, and we've never been able to sync up. So I'm excited to be casting with you and on our Champions League. Right, this is the best of the best that we've got. Right, our challenger players duking it out. Should be a really intense game night of games tonight.
Should be, as always, the highest level of gameplay that you can expect is here at this league. Insane plays, and we have a very high stakes lot. I mean, probably all of them are, to be fair, but still, we have Pixie in our lobby, the #1 guy right now, who has smashed last week with a first, second, and third placement. So no worse than a third placement for him. Guy is just on fire.
Yeah, I mean, that level of consistency when you're playing against players of this caliber is so difficult to pull off. So coming in week 1, just guns full blazing, just absolutely blitzing people. I mean, this is a long tournament. We've got a lot of weeks to get through. There's a lot of chances for standings to move around, but Pitsy is definitely positioned himself to be a top contender very early on.
Yeah, definite top contender. Talking about consistency on the worst side of things, Marine, unfortunately, with all 8 places last week, so he really needs to make a push. So we have players from all over the table, from top to bottom, some really needing the results, some others like Pizzi trying to stay on top. But in order to get those results, what is mostly on fire in the meta?
So the meta is kind of been bouncing around, obviously, with 14.1, a lot of changes. The whole open fort into true damage spat into win the game is gone, which I think a lot of us are pretty happy about. But you're seeing still a lot of a pretty decently high amount of spatula priority, which is it feels like to me that spatula is either an item that no one wants or an item that everyone wants. Like that's just, it's never kind of in the middle. So with country spat coming in, hitting that 7 country, getting the infernal dread steed is really possible and very doable and very powerful. And then, of course, you've got the scourge of summoner of TFT, which has been Akali, and with the Pentakill spat, with the Akali, with the Karthus, it's so difficult for any of these backline carry focused comps to actually get anything done.
Yeah, and I'd like to see cards making this resurgency, but not only with Akali anymore. You can play Viego to very good success as well. The Pentakill spat, as you mentioned, worked very fine with the Poppy as well. Great frontline units. Very good combo with Yorick, of course, the legendary that you want for the Pentakills in the end game. And talking about new units coming in, there's the TF. Of course, Disco has been very strong now. Tarek and Nami is a very good opener. And then you can just head straight into that TF and Blitzcrank down to the late game. And with such easy time applying anti-healing and magic shred, TF becomes a menace in the end of fights.
Yeah, I think you highlighted something there, is that anti-heal is a must in this current meta. Like you have to have it. So a red buff obviously is very contested item. Morello's another very good item to apply that. You need some way of, there's so much healing going around in the meta right now that it's just necessary. You see a stark difference between comps that have it and comps that don't. I do also want to talk about the premier kind of pick the augment, brain off, win the game is Twin Terra, right? You got Twin Terra, you can play the Vex, the Amumu, you can play Samira, you can play Country and all that stuff. I imagine if we see that come up today, it's going to get clicked and someone's just going to put 3 or 4 units in their planner and just kind of lean back in their chair and take it easy.
No doubt, very strong arguments. And talking about choices to be made in the game, we load in. It's time for our first game to start, and we have our a Galaxy or Portal or whatever you want to choose. And Shaco wins. It's a 3-cost champion for everybody. Talking about Shaco, he is the only player from Brazil in this lobby. And just mentioning that I'm quite familiar with him because I have been a teammate with him for a long time, so I know this player has a lot of consistency in his gameplay, which was shown on the first week of play. But at the same time, he's a very young guy, so that might play a bit into the fact that he nerves sometimes do get to him, and that is very important in high-level play.
Yeah, and we know that playing in a tournament versus playing on the solo queue ladder just feels different, right? People are all, you know, that for the most part, everyone's kind of zoned in and focused. So usually players with a lot of tournament experience, you know, are going to consistently perform more. But I'm happy to see. I love that in Aegis and really TFT in general, it's so region diverse, right? Like the ping, of course, the ping matters a bit, but it doesn't matter enough to stop you from competing, right? So love having just a cross region play here. And Pitsy with a very strong gold opener. Olaf going to be able to easily take down this stage 1-3 and 10 on 1-3. That's a very, very powerful start.
Very powerful, especially considering that now we do not have that much power into streaks anymore as we used to have. Now it's so much less important, I would say, to streak on stage 2 if you get the famous zebra, if you would call it, with a win-loss. It doesn't matter that much. Also, because of it, it becomes a bit harder for you to achieve that level 9, level 10, especially, pretty much impossible to get to.
Yeah, and with these 3-cost units, you know, always a chance of someone kind of high rolling into something. But as we get into our first augment choice here, we do have raise the tempo. We're not really able to take that because we don't really have the direction here. Stars Are Born, definitely an augment that has fallen off recently. And these are some interesting choices for Pitsy. I would be surprised if they didn't go with either maybe Buried Treasure or Fully Adapted, just get that item advantage so they have the gold advantage and then also they're up items on people and they can really push the tempo. Does go Buried Treasure. They're able to push that item tempo as well as the gold tempo. But back to the Galaxy, the Portal, I'm going to call them Headliners and Chosen, and then Galaxies and Portals just all intertwined, right? It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But with this Portal in particular, I don't know if there is a 3-cost that you just drop and commit to, really. But there is some big advancements. If you get a pentakill and then get dropped up a Mordekaiser, right, you have some advantages. But there's still going to be a lot of flexibility, and a lot of these players are really have to figure out what they're going to kind of go into with this start.
Yeah, some of them conserving the 3 costs, but most of them opting in with the economy start, just selling them off. We saw that Pitsy had the option of the Vex, which is a very strong unit now with the buffs to Executioners, had the option of the Echo, amazing front line, or even the Lux, which is a great comp to go into for re-rolling as well, but chose neither, sold all of them, so just made the choice to go full economy because of, as I mentioned before, it's much more important to get either econ augments or just econ by selling all the units as well, because you really need to lean into, not lean, I should say, into streaks anymore. And now we see Shaco here with a great start to Disco, has the Nasher suit there, which is a great item, of course, can go into the TF down into the late game, and with the Spoils of War, maybe he can get a lot of gold out of it.
Yeah, Spoils of War, such a good augment, especially when you start this aggressively. I mean, this is almost a picture perfect Disco opener. Has the Nasher slammed, which can obviously be translated over the TF. Has the sword on this bench, can make, you know, something like a Shojin, can make something like a Gunblade potentially. Is behind on the econ aspect, but what's going to fix that is win streaking Spoils of War, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Shaco here does make 10 here. It's just going to commit deep into Disco and just outvalue everyone going into like late stage 3, stage 4.
No doubt. And now we see Jukio makes the choice to go with Too Big to Fall. The interesting augment is the second time while casting in this set that I have seen someone make that choice. With the buffs to the brawlers, especially to Olaf, who has become quite the unit that you can even reroll if you want. This augment has become a bit better. And of course, that value, that big explosion in the front line provides, it's still good. Making that Bruisers now are a very valid front line to any backline that you have. Before, we just used to have Sentinels pretty much being the only thing you can play. Now, between them, Guardians, and Bruisers, I think all of them are pretty valid.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Bruiser start with that Too Big to Fail. And we're showing off a little bit of our production right here. Too Big to Fail, if you didn't know, on death, Bruisers deal 40% of their max health to enemies within 1 hex. It's just a great way to clear up your frontline dies, but it still gets to put that last bit of damage out that is so powerful. And man, the country being in such a start that it is, I'm sure they were looking for maybe a spat here, but has the IE if they want to commit to that Samira reroll. It definitely doesn't have to yet, but a very strong lean in that direction. And it's one of those things where it wouldn't surprise me if Jukyu is just constantly hitting tab, looking for any Samiras that people might be holding on their bench or on their board, and just honestly fully committing at this point.
Now, of course, with the removal of the rules that we used to have for headliners up until the 3 costs, becomes a bit easier if you're contested. You can still find your headliner. It's not going to be as hard. Now, talking about an IE, we see Bobster with this Jinx IE Slam. Very unlikely, from what I see, to actually be a Jinx play, but a great holder nonetheless to plenty of the units that you can find later into the game. The thing is, very low on economy, so probably going to be very far from hitting like a level 7 or even a level 8. So wondering what kind of unit this is going to be transitioned into.
Yeah, IE is just not a very flexible item. You know, it's definitely good on a few carries. You know, something like a Yone can hold an IE really well. Like an IE Hodge becomes very powerful with Yone. Caitlyn obviously is a very strong IE holder. But as we're looking right now, it's one of those things where, like you said, they're behind in the economy. So getting to those units, it's going to take a while unless we kind of high roll into it. But does have the punk rolls. It would shock me if they are using them, but they are using them. I should just stop talking, I guess. But so yeah, I'm interested to kind of see where Bobster decides to go here. Does get the Poppy there, like you pointed out earlier, a very powerful tank. And the earlier you get Poppy, obviously the stronger that she is. But has that rapid fire Jinx, and I'm just kind of not sold on where they're going yet. I think you're right. I don't think Jinx 3, especially being level 5 at this point, is in the cards. But let's see how they do into that very strong disco opener from Shaco.
Very strong opener indeed, but hitting this Poppy early stage 2 Poppy is a menace. She's going to destroy everything in her path. That TK is going to be very tanky as well, so this I am guessing is going to be enough for Bobster to take the win. He doesn't really have much of an augment, that is a point. But Shaco augment also just provides him with extra gold if he kills, so neither has board power because of their augments. And yes, Bobster keeps his win streak going, as does Domper. So we only have 2 players on fire. Everybody else took some losses. And Pity, our player that was highlighted before we loaded into the game, being the top 1 overall right now, having a first week where he smashed through the competition, is the one having the worst game right now, playing from very far behind. Can he make a comeback out of this?
Yeah, it's one of those things where Pitsy is absolutely trading health for economy, right? I don't think there's probably not much of a chance that Krugs drops 0 gold here. If it does, I'm pretty sure, there we go. I'm pretty sure Pitsy's super sad. But being able to kind of see be at 50 at this point is very strong. You know, I'm interested to see if they're going to roll, hitting a lot of 3 calls there. Wow. I'm interested to see if they're going to kind of go 6 and roll a bit to see if they have a little bit of direction, but does have the ribbon that's possible. Items aren't great for it. The Nico Vex, there's a few directions they could go, but I'm not sure. A lot of pairs here with the pair of Nico, the pair of Echo, and the pair of Urgots, but again, Pitsy with not a ton of direction, as we do see our first 3-star Kandrew on the right side just hit that Annie 3.
Amazing hits. I was going to say we had the Shojin option, but we didn't go with it. We've gone with the adaptive helm right now. Had we gone with the Shojin, we'd also have the Rage Blade. We'd have some good frontline items with the D-Claw, so could be a disco option, but of course, no disco units right now, so he's choosing to just slam whatever he can now. He knows he needs to save up some HP because things are going to get tough from stage 3 onwards with people hitting stuff. The Morello and the adaptive helm, of course, very good on this board. Adaptive helm being buffed both on the front line and backline side of things, but still taking a loss here. Wasn't able to beat Indie Alex, who is fully committed on a reroll kind of line. Now we go into the 3-2 augments of this game, and it's going to be a gold 1 once again. Bobster is still on fire. Jukyu is on fire as well. Domper lost his win streak. And now we have the Twin Terror option, as we pointed out before. And it is the choice made.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the if you wanted direction, you hit Twin Terrors and you just kind of turn your brain off. You're already level 6. You have a really strong economy. Have the Vex 2. So we have the Executioners now. Sadly, we're not using Twin Terror yet. We don't have any doubles of units in. that extra power. And the items aren't great. It does have a GS for Twitch, but those items will work on that Vex as they are slammed there. It's going to be interesting. It's kind of late and the items aren't great, but again, Pitsy obviously has shown themselves as a very consistent player. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were to kind of pull this off and stabilize. And see, we do have the Karthus here now, so we do have the 3 executioners with the Samira on the bench. So this could potentially, especially if you get that executioner Twitch, could be very powerful to run that 4 executioners. I don't think that we will really see anyone go for that 6. It just doesn't feel worth it compared to having that like increased front line. But this Vex is doing a lot of damage to really stave off, and not stave off the loss, but get a win there for Pitsy. I'm not sure if they were wanting to win that round, but they did, and hopefully we can start the loss streak. But they did just hit a chosen Twitch. It's Punk, but who knows? As we're jumping over to Indy Alex right now, who is currently carrying an Edgelord Kale.
Edgelord Kale, interesting take here. I'm not assuming that's going to be a reroll all the way, although it is good. I have played it before with the certain items. It can work fine. Let's see. I mean, he does have 2 duplicators, so it is definitely an option. We see that Jukyu is the only one keeping himself on fire right now. Bobster lost his win streak. And we see Dumper here, who lost some fights after being on fire throughout stage 2. He's playing hard still and made the choice to keep going instead of catching out. So, wondering what kind of loot can come out of that. Making a very interesting choice with a sleight of hand on his first augment, by the way, as well. Not a typical choice, I would say, although maybe I'm not as experienced because I've seen some pro players take it a few times.
Yeah, the sleight of hand can be good. I mean, like Domper does have the +1 to the sparring glove, so just being able to make probably 3 is really good if you end up hitting it. But talking about Indy Alex's board for a second, they do have those pair of Kales. Is taking that Kale for a Kale, or not Kale, I'm sorry, the Riven for a Riven 2, along with the 2 dupers. Riven loves QSS because the only thing that can really stop Riven from shielding and dealing damage is getting CC'd. So the getting the instant Riven 2 here and then having the 2 dupers, we're definitely looking at a Riven angle for Indy Alex. Indy Alex is a player that has been a mainstay of Aegis for a long time. They actually won, I think it was the AML last split. And are playing up into the ACL now. So I'm really excited. I think they kind of had a rough week 1, but Indy Alex, again, very consistent player, and I'm excited to see where they go. But let's hop on over to Jukyu, the win streaker, 96 HP on fire with a Samira 2.
Great slams, has 5 country in. That Samira is going to have that extra armor shred there on the front line, has the IE as well. Lots of gold. If he can maintain the streak all the way into the Wolves, he's going to have a lot of gold to roll in order to find that headliner Samira and then make it into a 3-star really easily. We see Shaco here added in some healing from his augment to his comp, playing fully committed on the TF line, but still a bit weak. Of course, that Nami is just a single target unit. She can kill some stuff, yes, of course, save up some health, but she's not going to be able to take a win, and that means that Jukyu keeps his streak safe and sound, so he just needs 1 more, and then he goes into a 9-win sequence into the Wolves, which is going to be amazing. He can already be rolling, but of course, before selling the TK, it's probably not going to do much of that.
Yeah, I think so. We'll probably see it sometime in stage 4 when Jukyu gets that level 7 spike, so they can look for the chosen either Samira or the Urgot. But yeah, I mean, this board is just it's so good for stage 3. I mean, this is going to be a hard one to beat. That Hecarim being not only is it a 5-country Hecarim, but it also has the added bonus of having 2 2-star country units, what you don't always have at this point in the game. So that Hecarim is going to be a menace to any backline, and we see Pitsy with that Twin Terror comp that's looking across at Jukyu's bench a little bit, seeing those Vexes and maybe feeling a little bit nervous about it.
That is a rough thing. He's definitely going to be contested because Vex is so good with the Samira as well. And of course, with the buff to Executioners, anyone who wants to run any kind of Executioner comp, which is going to be a great choice, is going to be running those Vexes and contesting him. Although I do like his choice with the Adaptive Helm and the Morello found good items to make that Vex work, and of course already has some good spare items for the Twitch as well. As you can see, another Twitch 2 is hit by Pitsy, so he's hitting lots of units. And now watching Indy Alex's board, as you mentioned, rough start in the first week, although there was a first place for him, so he already showed he can win under the right circumstances. Let's see whether this is going to be a right circumstance or not, because the Riven play is completely on, but still no headliner, though when he does find one, he will only need one more copy, and then he's already set with the duplicators to make that Riven 3. Drops some decent items there, I would say. The Titan's Resolve, I would say it's a pretty good choice for the Riven.
Yeah, I think so too, and I believe we'll probably see a bit of a roll down here from Indy Alex, because sitting at 36 HP, it's kind of a hit or nothing. Does get the Edgelord Riven plus the Riven +1, so yeah, just instantly Riven 3. Edgelord is, I kind of go back and forth on whether I prefer Edgelord or 8-bit, but at the 36 HP mark, you're just happy with anything, right? I don't think you're upset about any of those.
Oh, no doubt. You're really happy with anything you can hit. The Titan's Resolve is set. Now we have a Yone on the other side. Hitting this Caitlyn means that you really don't need the 8-bit choice. You can still go with 4 8-bits and have that bunch of extra AD added into your comp, especially to your Riven, and you look at the smash that she does with that combo augment, Unified Resistance also helping out a lot. His opponents with a last stand, which means an augment less for now, so it was easy to take down Bobster. Juki to taken down as well, losing his win streak. Now Kendrill, the only one on fire, and now Deca, we're going on to the 4-2 and the last augment of this game.
Let's see what we get. We do have the Pandoras. It will help you fix your items, but you're still only one combat there. Combat Caster, definitely not terrible for Riven, but it's probably just, it's going to be Pandoras. We're just going to make sure we get best in slot for our units. It is a little risky just because, like we talked about, Indy Alex is low and it needs to be win streaking. But wow, a chosen TF for Shaco, this guy's going to be a problem at this point. We do see a few upgrades coming around. Pitsy with the Pantheon 3, Domper that hits the Yone 2. I think that's their second Yone 2 if I'm keeping track. But this disco board just leveled up so much.
Leveled up insanely. That's exactly what he needed to hit, especially nowadays where TF is usually very contested. Hitting the headliner and not needing to find 3 copies makes things so much better. He fights his off against Marine then, who made a very bold choice on the early game, choosing for That's Jazz Baby. Fully committed on the MF line, has a last 10, so 1 augment less for now. Has a 2-star MF, only 5 copies, still far away from hitting that. You see this, that is still a very strong comp. It made quite the effort to take the win, but not possible. Shaco is just a bit better and got to win. And Kendrill, gotta point out, still on fire, being unstoppable on stage 4.
Yeah, absolutely. They are killing it right now as we jump on board with Bobster. That does have the Yone, the 7 Yones, like with all the Riven plays and crowd diver potential or pentakill potential, even edgelord potential. Yone is a decently contested unit now, but the IE plus the Hodge is such a powerful combo for Yone, giving him that capped crit plus the healing. One more item and that Yone will be a menace. We'll need to 3-star it, but their econ is looking okay. But now we're looking at that MF board from Ethan. Let's see if Yone can handle it.
Very good econ, definitely, but still having a hard time getting wins. 6 losses in a row. Looks like now maybe might be the chance, but look at how much that Echo is tanky. Impossible to take down, and the crowd divers going onto the back do not matter. The MF was unable to be killed, and that means Marine then gets another win. Kendrill goes to the top, and now we have a Kiana with a spatula on her. So who is going to be the taker?
About to say Kiana with a spat. But I'll be surprised if it didn't go instantly. Indy Alex grabbing that immediately, which is again not surprising. This Yone board is close, but I really think that Bobster just needs to commit to the roll down at some point, because it becomes, if you don't hit Yone 3 fast, you're going bot 4, like almost certainly, because your setup is good, but it's missing that burst of power that the Yone 3 gives you. But we'll see. Maybe does a roll down here. Does have the Titans, can slam if they want to, but not really hitting anything.
That is rough. The Yone not coming in. Okay, gets the Viego. Sure, that's great.
Does have the
Oh,
+1 Yone here. I'm always sort of like people when I'm doing a roll down. I've looked around and I've thought, okay, we have a Samira reroll player, we have a Misfortune reroll player, we have a Riven reroll player. There's so many 3 costs that are gone. Where are my Yones? Right? That's you shaking your fist at the heavens, asking Mortdog why he did this. Oh, not to mention the Vex reroll here, the Amumu reroll. There's so many 3 costs gone, but not quite able to hit that Yone 3. This Twin Terror is going to absolutely obliterate the front line from that Yone board and do a big chunk of damage to Bobster there at the end of stage 4.
Rough spot, no doubt. As you mentioned, the 3 cost rerolls should make it easier, but unfortunately just didn't come online just yet. We saw Pizzi was able to hit that Twitch 3, was able to commit to a roll down a little bit earlier and find the units. Not the Vex just yet, but doesn't matter. At least the Twitch is already being a terror, as the name of the augment says itself. Now we see Marine then, who is vying to find for the first time a placement other than 8th. And he does have a last stand, so that's a good chance of that happening. I am assuming so.
Yeah, it does give you kind of just a big burst of power here. The question for me is, one, what are we doing with our econ? Because we're not really even relatively close to our carry 3-star at this point. And we're at very, very low HP. We're basically 2 lives because of last stand, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And 2, what are we going to do with the spatula? With Jazzspat being taken out of the game, and I don't really know where you go with this spatula in this comp, and I'm sure that Ethan is looking across to the MF that just beat him, just asking why, but does hit that second MF too, so that is definitely a point in their favor. But really going to have to hit here. I think that Marine, Ethan, and Bobster are kind of in the same boat right now. We need to hit now, or we're going just bot 4 hard.
Very courageous to not be fully committing into the roll down just yet. Conserving the gold, he knows, of course, he's not going to die in 1 round. He still has the last stand to proc. But if you risk it, waiting to proc to then roll, it's a lot that you got to do to make it happen. And if you don't, then you just go down anyways.
Yeah, so going for the roll down here is 2. Oh, it's 2 off of that Misfortune 3. Is kind of close to the Bard 3 as well, but really not hitting. And again, like with all these 3 costs being out of the pool, especially with Misfortune being one that is certainly not contested, at least not very often, it's pretty shocking that they weren't able to hit there. Does roll over the Jin. Jin, obviously a potential big shot to use in this comp, but really no way to fit it in right now. I really would like to see a spatula slam here, even if it's just for true damage, just to kind of spread out the use of that spat a little bit. But a big fight here, that Ribbon 3 is just walking all over their board. The Bard able to keep the front line up a bit, but Ribbon is doing her job and is going to deliver probably the last stand proc. Yep, they're from Marine, Ethan.
Yeah, we saw this lamb with a KDA spats, which is weird. I mean, of course, unlikely to actually go into 5 KDA from this point. Really needs to hit that MF, but now with the last stand procced, it's now or never. Can Marine then save himself from a 5th, 8th place in a row? Bobster finally hits the Yone 3 with 1 HP left on his plate. In the Alex's with 3 players very close to elimination. Look at that. The MF3 comes online for Marine then as well. So one of those 3 players got to go down, but 2 of them are just now very strong.
Yeah, let's see it. Misfortune 3 last stand with that Jazz Baby up against the any reroll here. We're definitely have a health disparity in this fight, but it's someone we're going to lose a couple people in this round for sure.
And it's amazing to see an Annie reroll. Kendro being on top so hard with that Annie, with a bit of different items than what we used to see in the past. Still working fine, and now we see that Marine Dance board was able to survive Bobster 2 with a Yone 3. In the Alex's unfortunate result is the 8th place. So the first elimination of this game we have.
Yeah, I mean, at that point right there, the Misfortune looked great, right? Just ripping through the front line there on that last end with a bunch of different, with a bunch of boosted stats from that augment. We're gonna hop over here now to look at Bobster, who's also last standing. Does have the Yone 3. but is still on that 1 HP. We've got a couple. I don't think I've seen a game where we have 2 last standers, Sir Blackbeard. This is a new one for me.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, the Vex 3 hit by Pizzi just before round start, and lucky we with Pops facing off against Ghost. It's Kendra's Ghost. Of course, the Yone is on the wrong side to get to that Annie, so she's probably going to be able to get to those empowered casts, but nonetheless, it's a Ghost. It's a little bit weaker, and we are a bit stronger because of the last stand, so it's an easy win. Bobster survives. Marine wanting to survive as well, but his fight still going with MF, survives as well, so Dumper goes to 9 HP, 1 life away from being eliminated, and that means the Marine Den and Bobster actually have a chance of climbing up some placements and taking down some other opponents.
Maybe I'm just a sucker for an underdog story, but I would love to see one of our last stand players make it out of the pits of bot 4. Domper picking up that TG. Was Domper our lucky gloves, or not lucky gloves, but our TG
Like
user? Yes, I think they were. So getting that, if they are, I might be mistaken, but if they are, getting that free Thieves glove is definitely something that we would like to see here.
Talk about an underdog story. What if somehow they don't face each other for a long time and both of them make it to top 1 and 2? That would be fun.
That would be fun. That would be such a hype moment. I don't know if it would actually get beaten, for the rest of the split. That would be such a hype moment. But looking here with Pitsy, does have that 3-star Twitch, does have that 3-star Vex, 3-star Pantheon, 3-star Mumu. I mean, this comp, when you hit, is so powerful, and Pitsy hit. So it's going to take a lot, and we might be seeing the end of Marine Ethan right here.
Yeah, the thing is it stronger than a last stand buffed up MF3? That Echo and that Nico just vanished. They were appropriately executioned by the executioners, and now the MF is not gonna last. Maybe she is, because the Twitch was about to cast when he got eliminated by a big bullet to the face, and Pizzi lost by just a tiny bit, which means that both Marine and Bobster are still surviving. Dumper as well, so no one is eliminated, and it's interesting to see how flexible in itemization this comp is.
Yeah, I'm really excited because our dream is still alive. I thought it was dead, Blackbee, but it's still alive. Pitsy does have that Samira in there, so if they can get to level 8, having that 4th executioner will give us such a powerful spike in terms of just raw damage. So that's going to be a huge boost for them. But Marine Ethan, maybe they're cooking with something, man. Last stand, this Jazz baby is looking kind of good right now, as we're seeing this Twin Terrors comp face off against the Annie 3 with the Ziggs 2.
Ziggs 2, so a buffed up comp with a legendary to its name, but it's not gonna matter. Look at that move destroying the back line. It's an easy fight for the executioners. They get the kills, they win this fight. Kendra takes the loss. Bobster already survived. Marine then is surviving as well. Dumper is taken down, and it's the 7th place, so both our last 10 players survive. Jukyu being about to be eliminated as well, so that means that at least one of our 2 last 10 players, one of our 2 underdogs, has a very good chance of getting a top 4 already.
Yeah, and Jukyu was such a great start to this game. We're jumping on board with them now. It's just kind of the 5 pentakill. The units aren't really upgraded enough. The items aren't really there enough. It's and the too big to fail is not really as useful in this. You do have the Gragas, you do have the Zac. But at the end of the day, okay, now, hey, the reverse caster curse, whatever it is. The Yorick 2, a big hit here. Definitely would still like to see, maybe a Zac 2 would be a huge boon here, but you're not mad about a Yorick 2 at all.
No doubt, no mad at all.
Neil Owie.
Still cool-headed as well. Took the Yorick out of the board, played the TG on him, so the upgraded Yorick 2 has 2 complete items to his name, which is a very smart choice. And now we see the fights coming in against Marine Den. Powerful last stand with the MF. Can the Pentakills overcome this? Look at this Yorick with 2 items and a lot of goals being spawned into the enemy. The Viego is taking bullets to his face and he's not able to heal up. He gets killed. Now the Yorick and the goals need to do the job. The Eliwi with the tentacles Pentacles and the Zero portal is very helpful. But
She's
now
stacked.
Yorick is going to be left alone. He can't. MF is completely stacked. She's going to destroy. And Chuk Yu is going. Both our last 10 players are on fire. Both of them survive. And at least one of them will be a top 4 player, if not both.
I'm way too excited for this right now, Black P. Like I love it. Just last stand into win out, right? Is what we're doing. The fight of the century. And if our casters can hit it, our spectators can hit it. If we ever see these two fight each other, we need to see it, because I mean, we've got, I don't know, 2 win streaking last stand players, 1 HP in a dream, the true underdog story, facing down a lot of very powerful boards here coming into stage 6.
No doubt. Now we see Shaco and Kendra facing each other, but we move over because both last time players are facing off against each other. It's the MF on one side. It's the big Yone here. He's trying, but he's taking bullets to his face. He's gonna be gone. Crowd divers crowd dive, and they do not go into the MF, so she's gonna survive. She's fully stacked. The Gingso's Rage Blade is massive, and the bullets destroys. Bobster Marine then survives and gets a 3rd place at least, because Kendra also goes down. So 2 players gone. 3 left into the game, and Marine then, after 4 8 places in a row, now is finally showing up to this league.
Yeah, man, Black P, I don't know. I was skeptical when we first saw this setup for Marine then, but my goodness, this Misfortune is a menace to these. Just not only is Misfortune tearing through the front lines, but also having that backline access of the bounce from Misfortune's ultimate is just so powerful, and getting these backline units low so that we can start popping them, right?
Yeah, she's popping them right now. He's facing off against Shaco's Ghost. So it's gonna probably be an easier fight for him while Pizzi and Shaco face off against each other. So he's having a good time. Meridian with an actual chance to go in for a top 2 already, because one of them over there is going to take a big hit, and was Pizzi going down to 8 HP. So now Marine has 1 more player in his sights that he can eliminate. He came all the way from 7th place and almost eliminated, and now he's probably going into a top 2 already.
Yeah, definitely probably considering that Lucian for the extra jazz, but does end up going for the completed item. I think definitely a good choice there. A little bit more frontline stability with that redemption. Not the most premier item right now, but definitely not one that you're upset about having. The KDA is still sitting at 4. While I don't think we'll get to level 9 in this game, having that KDA at 5 would definitely be a big spike. But jumping over here with Shaco, Shaco has been committed to this disco line from basically 2-1, right? And it's paying off. They're sitting at a very healthy health lead. Is not at this point in the game, pretty much no one has econ, but it's sitting on some potentially very powerful units. We are close to a few upgraded 5 costs, but now Marine then versus Pizzi, Twin Terror versus the Jazz baby. Let's see what happens.
Who wins this? Is that Jazz going to be able to eliminate the Twin Terror? The Twitch and the Vex are massive into the backline. Look at the front line from Marine being eliminated. Oh, the CC comes in. The MF takes the loss. And the redemption story ends with Marine then taking a 3rd place. But, I mean, it's a big win for him nonetheless.
I think so too, especially having the week 1 that they had coming in, and not only being in the top 3, but making it exciting, right? Like I'm excited to watch their games now, because again, like Jazz was such a popular comp for so long, but we just don't see it anymore, right? So getting to see it again, and that very interesting setup was very fun. I definitely think if they had kind of beaten the math a little bit better, and you know that you can't help missing on your roll downs, but if you just don't miss on that roll down, you're probably in a better spot. But now we've got the finals. Disco versus Twitch.
Disco versus Twitch. Who takes the win here, favoring the Hyper Pop and the Lulu over the Sona with no Sona 2. Shaco is still amazingly strong, getting extra gold from Spoils of War up to this point of the game. Look at the AoE coming from SCF, but is not able to get the kills. All of the 3 units that in the backline are low health, but none of them killed. So we're gonna have at least one more fight. I mean, one final fight between the 2 of them after these PvE.
Yeah, that Vex unit, man. Once you get to the point where Vex is no longer casting on the front line, Vex just explodes backline unit, right? So it's really up to the TG on the Blitzcrank. I'm sure that they kind of wish that those items were rolled previously in the last round instead of the PvE round. But it's really going to be up to the TG units or items on the Blitz to have something to be able to hold off that Vex and that Twitch just a little bit longer. It does hit a few upgrades. Nasher's blue buff, definitely not what I was hoping to see for the Blitzcrank, but does hit that. The Ziggs 2 does have the static shiv for a little bit of MR shred. I think we'll probably see the static shiv on Sona there. It's going to be a big fight. Let's see how it shakes out.
Now, with 2 legendary upgrades to his name, is it going to be enough for Shaco and the Discos to take down that big twin terror, or is going to be the terror too much to overcome? We see the big crits coming in, but there is a big Amumu and a big Pantheon to go through for these Discos. The cards already started popping in. The TG wasn't good and the Blitzcrank was taken down easily, but now the bombs coming from the Ziggs, the casts from the Sona, the cards come in. The TF is surviving for a bit more than he was on the last fight, and that means Shaco takes the win for his team and for Brazil. So the top one is it, and this game is over. Decker, what a game!
What a game! That was game 1. We got to do more game. I mean, what a way to start, right? We have creative comps. So we have some high rolls. We've got some low rolls. We've got the whole just the whole diverse storyline going in there. But Disco does come out on top. That upgrade on that Ziggs 2 with the JG, the static shiv on the Sona to give her a little bit of mana, a little bit of attack speed, and also that MR shred just allowed those Disco units, that TF in particular, to kind of shred through the Pantheon, shred through the Amumu. But a really great showing from our players there. I mean, I love any game where I get to see something creative. So that was a lot of fun for me personally to watch, and I think other people probably enjoyed it too.
Talk about great showing. I mean, we expected Disco, we expected Twin Terror. We did not expect Jess. Marine then not only needed a massive comeback on this league, but he also committed on something completely unexpected, something completely out of the box, and made it work into a top 3. So I just got to highlight that once more, because that was an amazing showing, using that MF that just no one was going to play, and he turned it into a great result.
Yeah, and like we talked about, with so many 3-cross rerolls being around, Yone, Riven, Vex, Samira, all these very powerful 3-cross units, and something like Misfortune not being a contested unit, it can open up these lines. And really, Marine then, great job seeing that line and committing to it and securing a very, very important top 3 for them.
Yeah, so great showing. This was just game 1. We still have 3 more to come tonight. But now we go into a short break, and shortly game 2 is going to be on fire for you. Well, as I mentioned, short break, and we're back now. Highlighting players from this last game, I gotta mention, we were talking about Pizzi's ability to just be consistent. Once again, consistency is high for him, takes second place. Shaco with the first place, also being a bit consistent, a bit less, of course, but is the only player out of all these 8 who is able to take 2 top ones in the whole league. So, I mean, the man knows how to win the game.
Yeah, the question that's on my mind is, will Pitsy bot 4 today? Because obviously they haven't yet, right? So we have no reason to think that they will. But this incredible amount of consistency from them, if they don't start kind of falling back, it's going to put them in a even early on, a very strong position to clinch those 8 spots that everyone is kind of fighting for the regular season play.
Definitely. I mean, great results here. But now talking a bit about comps, we saw Disco. We saw, of course, the MF, which is very unusual, but still. We saw the Yone, we saw the Riven, the rerolls. Anything that you were feeling was missing from this last game and that you would like to see?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm always, at least in my solo queue games, I will say like the things that I see a lot. You always see like a couple people hard committing to Olaf. I think these players are probably a little smarter about when to hard commit to Olaf or not. But we did see, I was surprised we did see at least one cost reroll. We saw the Annie, right, to come in, but we also didn't see that much of that like pentakill Parthis Akali. I think we had one person that was playing it, but I don't think that their board was kind of fleshed out enough for it to happen. And that might be just an indication on the portal, not really enabling it as much. But I would like to see, I'm surprised we're going to see probably a little more pentakill and maybe some EDM. I think EDM has kind of been creeping up with Jax coming back into the meta a bit. Lux kind of being a decent carry if you high roll into it. These are the kind of the situational comps, but I think we'll probably see more of the same. We're going to see a disco player. We're going to see a country player. You know, we're going to see all that. But I'm interested to see. Hopefully, we see some more diversity. I'm watching Marine Dan because like they obviously brought the Jazz. We were excited. I hope they bring out something else kind of spicy coming into this next game.
Yeah, one thing I was talking about before game 1, during game 1 actually, was that confidence matters a lot in your mental into a league kind of this. And Marine, I mean, rough situation on week 1. Now he gets some confidence back in taking that 3rd place. So maybe that means that he can start getting off some great results. And of course, this is a long league. So this is just one good result, but he can get many more and start ramping up and getting himself some points. And there's still plenty of chance for him to qualify into our playoffs. Now, on to the choice of our portal. And the winner is going to be Alex with multi-talented, which is pretty interesting because there are some units like the Jax that you mentioned, which are really good users of this portal.
I am a little upset, Sir Blackby, because the wandering trainer has griefed me in solo queue so much the past few days. I was really excited to watch these players play it and kind of see what they did with it. But multi-talented, definitely a portal that opens up a lot of safety. Things like Riven become very, very powerful, right? Because you don't have to worry about 8-bit or edgelord, you just get them both. Stuff like Yone gets very powerful because you're really wanting that edgelord or that crowd diver, and if you've got multi-talented, you're gonna get one of them, maybe even both, right? Annie, again, just because it's on my screen, is a lot better in this galaxy because you get that emo and that spellweaver, so it opens up a lot of comps that you can cap around lower boards. So you can cap around a 1 cost or a 3 cost much easier because you have access to their multiple of their traits. And the last thing, I'll bring this up, Olaf also very strong. And look, there it is. Oh, that was great timing. Olaf much more powerful in this because you can take advantage of that vertical, both bruiser and pentakill. So we'll see what they do. I don't think that Kendrew is going to buy this Olaf, and it's going to make me sad. But with a cloak plus a rod, it's not really much of a line there. Okay. Someone's listening to the stream, Black P. That was on purpose, and I feel targeted and attacked by that.
You got completely baited. That is what it is. That is the truth. But now we go on to Silver Augments, the first of this game. So the game's going to start a little bit slower than the first one. Doesn't mean that much. I mean, to be honest, these players are insane. So I'm still expecting a great game to come out of this. And the Laden Forge is taken, so no augment for Kendrick pretty much for a while.
Yeah, and Kendrick with the Samira plus the Vex start, obviously a very good executioner duo there. The items aren't really giving much direction. Does have a potential AP item for Vex. Could lose streak into 2-5 and pray for a spatula drop for the country spat. A lot of options here, but two very powerful units. Now they are committing to not making econ here and holding these units. So it is gonna I swear Kendra is just doing the opposite of everything that I say at this point, Blackfeet. But I like that much better. Your start with only the Vi as the front line. There's really not a lot those units can get done. They don't have enough space to make their damage happen without not having items. So I really like the idea of just making the econ and then planning the loss streak into 2-5 unless something crazy happens.
I like it too. I was gonna ask you about it, but Kendrick just made a move before I could. Truth is, econing so important. He's not gonna have an augment as well for a while. So it was just too greedy to hold those units. Of course, he could lean into the late game, but it's just easier to sell them econ now, and then when you roll, you can find plenty of copies, or you can also check if you're contested, and maybe you should play for something else. While Marine Dan, the player that we wanted to watch, is going for on a roll. I mean, I haven't seen an augment in a while.
Marine Dan is absolutely now my favorite player in in the ACL so far. I mean, we got the spicy comp from last game, and now we have the Olaf reroll. 15 gold here, plus having all those one cost pairs to get those on a roll procs is such a good spot to be in. Did have a full gold opener, so does have just the belt there. So, obviously played into that econ. But Sterix is one of Olaf's best in slot items, so it does have half of one of Olaf's better items. So we could definitely see an Olaf commitment here, and I would be pretty excited to watch it happen.
I would be pretty excited to watch as well. I like that Olaf is coming hot into the meta right now. I tried some Olaf rerolls into the very early parts of the set. Wasn't really good then. Now it is a kind of a unit we're seeing at the highest level of play, even at official tournaments. But I'm going to throw it back to you with a question, since I am not a specialist of this comp. You mentioned the Sterex, which would be the other best in slot items for this X guy.
Yeah, so Sterix obviously very, very powerful on this comp. And then from there, you really just want things like Titan's Resolve and Edge of Night or BT or something of that nature. Just stuff to kind of keep Olaf up longer and hitting longer. Olaf, a unit that gets more attack speed based off of the HP that they have lost. So being able to have that thin line of like, we're playing low HP, but we want items to keep him alive. So something like Edge of Night is very powerful because he starts getting hit, loses some HP, ramps some attack speed, and then gets de-aggroed so he can start kind of doing damage. I am surprised that Marine then is not going for these Gragas. There's a Gragas in last bucket and this bucket. I'm sure that their calculation is that it's going to come back and we don't have to 3-star Gragas in this comp, but just throwing every bruiser that you find just makes this comp more and more powerful as Olaf gets more and more HP. But electing to keep those pairs of one cost in order to not only reduce the amount of one cost in the pool so that low lofts will have a higher potential to come, but also have those on a roll procs is, I think, a good decision. It's just not one that I would have made personally.
Makes sense, and definitely the bruiser extra HP makes Olaf much powerful and synergizes so well with his kit. Now, Kendra is the one taking the spatula here, so no chance of a pentakill spat or anything of sorts for Marine. Then wondering what Kendra is going to be able to make out of that. We still have 3 players at 100 HP, Bobster, Marine, and Shaco, our winner from the last round.
Yeah, and then Marine Dan picking up that sword, so does complete the Sterix, as well as I think this makes an Annie too. Yep, so we'll get a free reroll there off of that on a roll proc, so a very good hit from them. At this point, we're probably just going to try and get to 50 while also taking our free rerolls and looking for the Olafs, but is only at 4. So this is a point where it's really difficult to fully commit here, because if you slam the Sterix doesn't really find a lot of use on very many comps outside of this. So if you slam it here, you're really committing to that unit. But here, that's what they found the line. Got the super fan in to get that Sterix on there. But Indy Alex also with an Olaf too and a second Olaf. I told you this is what my solo queue games look like. There's like 2 to 3 people that are all trying to see if they can position toward Olaf and see what happens. And Indy Alex is definitely in the lead now. And Marine then is going to have to make a decision. Do you commit? Oh, it does commit the double Sterix. We're going to handhold to bot 4 or one of us is going to win the game. That's what they're looking for right now.
I was going to mention Indy Alex was already fully committed having the Sterix more than Marine then still having the chance to pivot out. But then he just slammed it as well, says, hell, I don't care. We're holding hands. I can do it. I can find this Olaf. We are going to play both of us the same comp. And yeah, I mean, interesting to see because Olaf is definitely powerful, but I never expected to see 2 players going for him at the same game. And meanwhile, Bobster is smashing the competition with a headliner Bard.
Yeah, the Bard is such a powerful unit, and the headliner activating both Jazz and Dazzler just by himself adds so much power to that unit. So the Rage Blade, I'm definitely interested to see where they go with the Rage Blade. Rage Blade is really only useful in a couple areas, Disco being one of them that's potentially useful. I wouldn't call it best in slot on Twisted Fate, but it's not terrible, right? So we might be looking for a Disco angle with that Taric too. But looking at GQ's board, does have that Disco chosen Nami, so might already be some contesting going on in their boards as well.
The Gingso is pretty darn good on the Lucian as well, although of course it's a legendary and very hard to find. Now Bobster and Marine then both being on fire, the 2 players that are streaking. And Pitsy, once again, our player that is the most consistent one throughout the league, is one more time playing from behind. The last game around, he showed that didn't matter. That didn't stop him from getting that 2nd place. So maybe that's just his way. I sacrifice HP, I get more econ than everybody else, and then I make the comeback and pull off a very good result.
Yeah, I mean, even with the econ changes where, full opening is more kind of dissuaded than it was beforehand, having that guaranteed 5 streak is still very powerful, right? Or having, I guess it's a 6 streak now, right? But having to lose that extra round, not that big of a deal, but it does kind of change the mental state. But obviously Pitsy does win on 2-7 and lose that loss streak. That feels pretty bad. But both Bobster and Marine Dan able to hold on to those win streaks and keep that econ very high as we're jumping over with one of our 2 Olaf players, Indy Alex.
And he's rolling down hard because he knows there's somebody else playing the comp as well. He might be rolling too. So somebody got a hit, and I want to be the first one to do it. But still, no Olaf 3 so far. He was able to find only 1 more. Now making the choice, do I stop? Do I keep myself at high gold? Or do I fully commit into this roll down? But he chooses to stay up and goes with the QSS on the Olaf. And now facing off against Pitsy, our player, going with a heart still, and wants to keep himself at a loss streak. Let's see whether this Olaf is going to be enough.
Yeah, this is it's such a hard spot for Indy Alex to be in, because if you go below 30 there and don't hit, I mean, the game is over at that point, right? Like you're going bot for sure. So hitting that 30 break point, it's pretty common for when you're playing a 1-cost reroll and you have that 50 interest point on 3-1 the last round before you natural into level 5. That you kind of roll down to 30 as the safe point. But unfortunately, Indy Alex really didn't maybe hit 1 there. It does have the option for Rich Get Richer to build econ back up, but decides not to go against it. But Harm Assist is a very good option on Olaf, but heavy hitters, man. It looks like we're just full committing.
Heavy hitters pretty much designed to be played with this comp. Feels really good to hit. I gotta say, I am surprised that Marine then not only is playing Olaf so committed, not only he is going with the option of contesting with Indy Alex, but he's still win streaking. He hasn't lost a single round. Is this thing that powerful?
Marine Dan is absolutely in a very, very good position here. Doesn't have the honor roll also, again, which we pointed out, which is a very good option for 1-cost rerolls here. But you're right. I like it. Eventually, the win streaks are going to start to end. But with the level that you will natural into, you usually, if someone's contesting your 3 costs or your 4 costs and you're much higher than them late in the game, you can kind of wait for them to die and be like, okay, I'll get my units. I'll lose a few rounds, but I'll get my units when they go out. But it being a 1 cost reroll and so early, that's not going to happen for a long time. And Marine then, even though they are winning now, if they don't hit that Olaf 3, they will eventually kind of start to bleed out as well. As we think we're going to jump over to them right now. Oh, we saw a pivot. Oh, man.
Yeah, okay, so that makes a bit more sense in my head why he's kept the win streak going. Senna headliner, very powerful, and now only one Senna away from that Senna 3. Big hits for him. And talk about big hits, Bobster has that Rage Blade plus a Bard, which can drop gold, plus a Gambler's Blade. So Bobster has massive econ potential with also the Spoils of War. And hell, we have a fight between the two of them. One of the win streak is gonna end. Both of them at level 6. It's a Senna versus a big attack speed buffed up Bard. Who is gonna be able to survive this and keep his win streak going? Bobster is going to take a big advantage if he can do it, but he's not going to be able to. Senna is just a bit more powerful. Bobster is taking down Marine then with 1 combat augment and a few more units hit. Is the only one on fire now in Pitsy. 37 HP at 3-3? Things are looking weird there.
That's a little low, but talking about Marine then for a moment, you know, it feels like to me that Marine then is just living about 2 patches in the past, but is making it work, right? Because we did see, you know, a few patches ago, we did see that Senna reroll comp being viable, where you would build, you'd have the Shojin, you'd have the Rage Blade, and then like a +1 item there. It does get the free Senna 3 also off of this carousel. So like Jazz, that used to be very popular and kind of fell off, Marine then is playing this sort of off meta comp that used to be meta. But if you hit, right? So we'll see if that Senna can kind of carry Marine then into that top 4 situation as we jump on board with our 37 HP first place Pitsy.
He went for the cash out. Now he's definitely got to make a play, and he's obviously not going to be able to find a 4-cost headliner, so he's got to choose a 3-cost one. The thing is, he's not choosing any. He got plenty of options, and he didn't go with any of them. So still wondering, what does he want to play here?
I'm pretty surprised that Pitsy rolled over that Samira, because you had a Country Executioner Samira. Yeah. You have a Spat with the cloak for Country Spat and an IE for your Samira. So I'm pretty surprised that they went for that, rolled over that unit, but does have the 8-bit Spat, so maybe looking to go into that vertical a bit, but that just not able to get it done. So many items that haven't been slammed. And playing down a Chosen at this point in the game, you're going to start taking a lot of HP really, really fast.
Oh, he had the shop locked. He lost 1 shop. Now the thing is, with this choices made, I'm assuming we want Riven. Yeah, buying the Yoda and selling, yes, definitely. Riven is the one we want. So now we're going fully committed on the 6-8 bits, which is interesting because, as you know, we can get that massive cash out at the end, which can give you bonkers kinds of things, which can give you a top 1 scenario. But at 26 HP, that's extremely risky.
Yeah, Pitsy's going to have some really good item drops from this 3-7 PvE round. I mean, it does have the BT and had to make the decision to either slam BT or slam the Cube SS, but does kind of have half of all of Riven's items. So definitely a lot of options here from the next PvE round. If they can maybe get a component anvil, maybe have a little more flexibility there. But 6-8-bit, definitely very strong. It does unlock that final cash out, but getting it 8-bit in kind of this late into the game, I doubt that comes into play. And the econ right now sitting at 30 while on level 7 with just 3 Rivens. It's going to be hard for Pitsy to pull it off. But again, Pitsy has shown themselves as to be one of the most consistent players in the tournament so far. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're able to find a line here to make it work.
No doubt. There's a lot of board power to him as well with those 2 dummies, 2 support items, both of them beefing up that Riven. So she pretty much has 2 extra or maybe 2 half extra items there to her name. Now the drops are just not great. So he's not going to be able to have a Titans result, which would be very desired.
Yeah, hopping on board here with Domper, who is contesting in the 8-bit. Also doesn't have that chosen, is looking for one now, I'm assuming, but with luckily with the rule changes to the chosen is definitely more likely to hit. But again, putting a lot of pressure onto this roll down. If they don't hit on this roll down, the game is surely just kind of going to spiral out of control and doesn't really hit anything. So it's playing a chosenless board, not really great items to slam. And to be fair, even in this spot, these items are not that great on Riven. We got the QSS, which is good, right? But then like tier rod, like what do you do with like your best option is maybe for a Caitlyn, but even then, like, it's not going to be enough to win against these boards that are starting to cap.
Not a good moment here for Dumper. He's in a very rough spot. Indy Alex hit all of 3 just before round start, but wasn't enough to get a win. Now we go into a gold augment once again. 4-2, a gold augment for everybody. The choice is already made. We have a BF sword, pretty good. Still, no headliner and playing without one and having no go-to row as well. Oh, finally, the Riven comes in.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a very good pickup, but is it too little too late? I mean, how are you going to get this? First of all, how are you going to get this Riven in? You got to make 9 gold here. Your best option is maybe, selling that or even using a duper, but 4 ribbons now while you're contested with the amount of gold that you're at with not even the best items. This is going to be really hard for Domper. And I'm, to be fair, and Pitsy also, but we're at that point, like I kind of brought up earlier, where Domper just needs to survive, right? Pitsy is at 26 HP, 30 HP lower than them. If Pitsy can lose out and stop contesting those ribbons with the double dupers we could see a big spike of the Ribbon 3 very fast, but it's going to be how can you mitigate your losses against these boards that are starting to really cap around these 4 cost units.
You could use the Reforge, try to hit 1 extra item at least, but didn't make that choice. He's able to kill a decent amount of units, saves himself a little bit of health, but takes the loss against Yukio. Pitsy wins, so that's not good. Or Dumper really wants Pitsy to be gone. Oh, finds the Caitlyn, so 6-8-bit is online. And just to mention it again, Marine Den still hasn't lost.
Yeah, and Kandrew hitting that Lux 3, I'm not sure if they're playing that EDM. Maybe we can hop over there if we're able to. Looks like, with the Zac 2 and the Set 2, we might be looking at a Lux reroll here, and it looks like we are. The Goldmancer, the Adaptive Helm, and the Morellos does have that Fawn also from the return on investment. EDM 5 is definitely nothing to underestimate, but Olaf 3, pretty good Olaf items. We'll see if Indy Alex is able to take this round.
Love the itemization on this Lux. It's going to be very powerful. So many casts coming in from EM5, and it looks like an easy fight against the Olaf, but the anti-healing needs to be procced because that Olaf is coming back to life. Finally, yes, and he is gone. Indy Alex has taken the loss. Kendra takes the win. Now, we see that players at the bottom, some winning, some losing. All the HP bars are close, so this is a very close game. Other than Marine Den, because still hasn't lost. The man is unstoppable, and the buff from finally making a comeback on the last game is being very good to him.
Yeah, and we're assuming that they're probably still running that Senna 3 that's just doing so much work. But looking at the Kandrew spot right now, there's a lot of potential upgrades. Again, does hit the Zac 3, but I also wanted to highlight kind of the fight there with them and Indy Alex. I mean, the idea behind your 1 cost reroll comps is that you're able to hit and spike much faster than everyone else. And then through that, you're able to not only preserve your own HP and build your own econ, but you're able to push down other people's HP and econ, right? So you really want to be hitting that in like the early stage 3 if you want your 1 cost reroll to kind of scale into the late game, because it will start falling off against these higher capped boards. But Indy Alex hit pretty late, so these boards that they're playing against are much more capped, and they probably don't have the econ advantage that a 1 cost reroll would often give you. But enough of that. We're looking at Shaco. Does have that Yone 2, the Edgelord plus the Heartsteel. We'll see if they can get it done.
Shaco with the Rose, but didn't find the Yone. Bobster with the Rose found his TF2 and a headliner Airy to help him out there at the right side as well. That's interesting. Is that going to be enough to take down the crowd divers? Yes, by the looks of it, is going to be. And I like the choice there by Bobster. He takes a completely out of field headliner just to make his comp stronger, which was something that we didn't see Dumper do. He just risked it all to get his desired headliner.
Huge hit.
Yeah, huge hit here. Now Fasheko has that Yone 3 and is going to get a bit of a hostile cash out after this round as well.
Yeah, the problem that we're seeing here is that the Yone still doesn't have healing. I believe that last augment is healing orbs. There's a lot of augments with
Yes.
like little circles in them, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
It is.
But the healing orbs does give a little bit. But as you saw in the last, thank you so much, production man. I love the new production setup. This is incredible. But as you saw in the last round, the Nami just able to bubble onto the Yone and stop them from healing, and was able to burst it down. But now we have Lux versus Yone. Lux able to get the cast off, but the Yone really not taking too much damage. And once it gets on the Lux, it's going to go away really fast. These comps are really tough for Lux to handle, because she really depends on those straight line skill shots. And even if you've got 3 or 4 of them, something like a Riven, something like a Yone is often really difficult for you to handle. I have seen with this comp, Lux is one of my favorite comps, even though I just went 7th with it before the cast. Where when you're playing against those Rivens and those Yone comps, we've seen people switch to the Jax EDM to give a little bit more backline access and a little bit more kind of not burst damage, but a little bit more consistent damage onto those carries, since they can dodge out on those Riven and those Yone movements so often. I'm interested to see if we will see that from the Lux comp, but again, it's kind of a niche thing that sometimes it works and sometimes you just go 7th, which is what I'm used to doing, I guess.
I agree. I saw surely a guide that said exactly that. You play Jax against fighters because they're just going to be dodging away from the Lux hits, and that's exactly what that Yone did, going full Neo and just matrixing out of every bolts that came from that Lux. But now we go on to Dumper, who risked it all to try to get the Riven 3, and he's going to be able to...
Does he land? Oh, no!
He didn't get the Riven 3 in! Oh my god, that is just awful! And now he faces up against Indy Alex, and the big Olaf he's going to be able to survive one more round to get that Riven 3 online, or is the KO going to eliminate the Riven? There is so much healing coming from that Olaf. There is the Morello there, but it didn't proc on the Olaf, I believe. No, it did. The Olaf is burning, but it's not going to be enough. No! Riven 3, Dumper is gone, the 8th place. Oh, that is sad to watch.
God, that's so tragic, because I think you kind of saw the animation too, where it kind of looked like the Riven flew onto the board, right? So I really thought they hit it, but you know who's not mad is Pitsy. Pitsy just saw so many Rivens float back into the pool, just like I talked about earlier. Being able to just wait it out. You saw that Pitsy had 77 gold there. That's someone who is not rolling until Domper dies, right? Because it very, very, very well played there by them. Does get the Kate 3, does hit the Riven 3. Now Pitsy, from the pits of 8th place, is looking at potentially forcing another top 4 finish for themselves.
Pitsy was cold-blooded, but was a smart player. He's able to hit everything that he wants now, much more powerful. Faces off against Bobster, who is trying to be strong, but that Ari is doing nothing for him anymore. This comp just smashes everything, and now maybe that big cash out at the end is actually a possibility.
With the amount of damage that these 8-bits are just kind of dumping out right now, it definitely is a possibility. You know, the 8-bit, something that scales with damage, but still has a few room for upgrades. I mean, not really, I guess. I mean, the Yone 2 with no items. A Viego 2 would be nice, but right now, looking at Pitsy's spot, it's going to be hard to take them down, because that's so much bonus AD from that 6-8-bit. It's just making Riven an absolute monster, win streaking on an 8 streak. And really, the thing I want to point out here is that Pitsy was win streaking before Riven 3, right? Yes. So even with just the Riven 2, without the Caitlyn 2 also, because we saw them hit that after they hit the Riven 3, able to find a way to win streak with a very not capped board is so very impressive, and cleaning up an easy win versus the Ghost board there.
Bobster takes a loss, goes to 5 HP. Kendrew and Indy Alexes are fighting. One of them has a chance to be eliminated. The question is, are them? No, neither of them. But the lobby is very close. 26 HP to the second place Pitsy, 5 to Bobster, so 21 HP between those players. It's a very close lobby overall. And as I pointed out before about that Riven, I mean, she has pretty much 2 extra items to her. She has the buffs from the Aegis of Legion. She has that QSS buff as well.
Take it. Take it.
So
Take
it's amazing.
Take No. I was really hoping for the 8-bit spat there. I'll be honest with you. 8-bit is one of those. There are some traits that do not benefit very heavily from having those extra units, right? But 8-bit being one that builds up the high scores based off of the amount of damage that 8-bit units do, is one that can benefit for even having over 8-bit, over the amount of 8-bit units that would normally go into filling out the comp. So I don't know. I think the 8-bit could have been there, but Pitsy obviously made the determination the Guardbreaker was more important, and being able to have that shield cut was more important. But let's look at Bobster. Does have that TF2. We'll see if they can hold up versus Marine Ethan or Marine then.
And he survived. Marine then played so well throughout this game, lost a lot of health now, of course, but kept at 100 for a long time. The TF trying to overtake that center, that massive frontline poppy, but he's not able to. The discos are gone. Bobster takes the 7th place. I was mentioned that I liked Bobster's choice of getting that Ari there, because of course he needed to play some headliner. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to transition out of it, and it just didn't really fit his comp. So unfortunately, he ended up stuck with something he didn't want, and that was just not a good board for the end game.
Yeah, but looking on board here with Indy Alex, our Olaf 3 player that's still standing does have a pretty decent board here. Is missing some upgrades. Definitely would like a Zac 2 or even a pair of Zacs. Same with Viego here. But a very powerful board. The issue is that there's really not a lot of room for error, and they're staring down Pitsy, who is win streaking really hard.
And has the Riven right on the Olaf's face, so can she destroy him? There's no anti-healing, but there's a lot of damage. There's the last whisper. The GA procs the Edge of Night, rather, I should say, and the Riven just smashed the competition. Too big to fail? I don't think so. They just failed. Indy Alex is gone from this lobby and takes the 6th place. So one more player is gone now. 5 remain. Kendrew and Juke Yu are barely still surviving. Shaco as well. All 3 of them can be eliminated in one round time.
Yeah, we could see 2 people going out right now, but looking on board with Kendrew here, the Lux items are interesting. The double Shojin definitely going to allow Lux to ult more, but just the lack of damage that they have might be a problem when we get into these big sustained fights, as we will see versus something like the Riven or something like the Yone, right? Without being able to kind of burst them very quickly, it might be a problem. Now, does hit the Nunu? What am I thinking? The Blitzcrank 2, which is obviously a very big upgrade, is able to kind of slot in that disco if they want, and it looks like they're going to look for that. Does add a little bit of extra stats to your units, but I'm just kind of nervous of how this board is going to fare against when we see them against someone like Pitsy, right? Who is on that such like sustain heavy board. If this Lux is going to be able to burst through that and give them a chance to get in this top 4 position.
Oh, it's a ghost. So that's a good one for him. Maybe he survives. He got himself 2 tactician's crowns. He was able to change the itemization on the Lux, because it wasn't these items before. So 2 Shojins, now it's so many more casts, so much more powerful, and keeping himself up in gold in order to use that Goldmaster staff. So he gets an easy win here. And as I mentioned, so many players about to die. 2 of them just did. Shaco takes the 5th place. Chukyu is the 4th. Now 3 players remain. Pitsy still on fire, and Pitsy once again shows he is the consistency man. Once again, no less than top 3 for the man.
Yeah, I saw Pitsy in the Twitch chat a little bit ago talking about me potentially caster cursing them, but apparently you can't caster curse Pitsy, because they just again showing off nothing below a top 3 so far. This is game 6 of the ACL so far.
Yes.
So 6 games, all top 3. Honestly, I don't know what to say. Stop him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible. Look at this Lux casting so much on the Raven, but she finally that gets the edge lord, dashes and gets onto the Lux, gets the kill. Kendra is gone. Now PT has once again at least a top 2 guaranteed, with a very good chance of a top 1 because he is on fire, and Marine then milked everything he could out of the Senna, but it might not be enough to take down the Riven.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot like last game, right? I was this our top 2 from last game? I'm trying to check real quick.
Nah, Shaco got top 1.
That's right. Shaco won the lobby last time. You're right. But still a very good showing from Marine then. After, again, we've talked about it. You know, we're not trying to build up the fact that someone played poorly, but having such a poor showing in week 1 and then just coming back with a vengeance in this week so far, and playing very off meta strategies, and not what you would call just higher tier comps. But man, this Riven is a problem, Black P, and it's just going to be way too much for the front line to handle. And Pitsy is going to be our winner of game 2 of week 2 of ACL.
GG, Pitsy takes a massive win. I mean, as you just highlighted, Maureen then, not only he needed to come back, he did, but he did so by playing completely off meta. And that not only is a great showing, but it's a bold choice.
Absolutely.
So making a bold statement like that feels good in a league, and maybe throwing your opponents just a little bit off.
Yeah, I love the idea of just looking for the line that's the least contested. I mean, you saw it throughout that game, even taking Pitsy, for example, of just having to contest that Riven is such a stressful line to play into. You know, it's so stressful to watch your comp go to another player, and even them hit Riven 3. Luckily they kind of didn't right toward the end there, but really well played from Marine Ethan and from Pitsy. Just really, really strong showings there, playing the Senna, one of my favorite units in the game. So I'm happy to see it represented and doing well.
And to highlight Pitsy once again, not only the massive consistency, but also very cold-blooded, waiting for his contester to die, to then roll, hit that Riven 3, get to that spike, which was impossible to stop, and then get that top 1. Amazing result. Pitsy is the man to stop in this league, but that was it for us, for me and Decker. Game 1 and 2, we're going to be coming in hot with 2 new casters after the break, Rain 101 and Z-Boy Wonder. So thank you, Decker, for our time here together, because it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to finally sync up with you. And if you're looking to see a lot lower quality gameplay tomorrow, I'm going to be playing in the Diamond League for Aegis. So that I'll be streaming that tomorrow on twitch.tv/thatdeckerguy. It's thatdeckerguy on Twitter. If you want to stay tuned, I'll tweet when I'm about to go live with it. But much less of a quality of gameplay from the ACL, but it should still be a good time.
And high-level gameplay is what we have here on the ACL. 2 more games still to go tonight. Thank you for watching. Keep watching, because 2 more games are going to be great. See you soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am Rain101 here to provide play-by-play for you in this ACL Week 2. I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Z-Boy, the eighth wonder of the world, the one and only People's Champ. Z-Boy, how are you doing? How does it feel getting back to the caster desk?
I see the praise from Vegas Open has continued to the praise here on Aegis TFT. We are on set 10 still. I'm loving it. Except for my LP might not be loving it, but I'm loving it. And that's what matters most. I feel so good to be back in my caster role. Being a player has been obviously a treat. Was on the box boot camp to start things out. But here we are back in action. I couldn't ask for a better duo. I mean, best looking guy I know, at least in a caster's chair. Look at those eyes. They're the only ones that rival mine. You might just be the cutest of the cute. But realistically, what do you think of what we're seeing so far from these players in our league? This has been my favorite set to play, and I got a feeling it's going to be my favorite set to cast.
You know, I've been casting pretty much this whole week, and I agree it's going to be your favorite set to cast. We have seen the meta really on this patch starting to stabilize, and a lot of times when we've been casting in the past, that means like there's, a couple of really top comps that people are going to be vying and contesting for. And now you're seeing that there's like 4, 5, 6, 7 different things. There's so much skill expression. And I think that elevates the level of this competition even further. You're really seeing how the highest level of competition can just outpace even people who are playing at a similar level. You're looking at Pitsy's scores, and you see these, last week and this week, how much he's been keeping up with the meta, how flexibly he plays. It's just been incredible. I was literally just watching him play yesterday at the Study Cup Clash at an extremely high level, playing super well. And that's not just saying, okay, I'm going to force RE Sentinels like maybe last patch. It's like, okay, I'm going to play TF. I'm going to play this reroll. I'm going to play this augment. It's just been really incredible seeing in the cast that I've done and watching others broadcast, watching these games, how diverse and expressive this meta is.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we really learned from the KDA Cup is if you can play flexible through this set, you are going to be one of the better players in your lobby. Not just talking about AD flex when I throw that word out there. I'm saying if you can flex between these 4 Kosh, these 3 Kosh rerolls, finding your way to capping out boards and even getting to that beautiful level 10 that is so not easy to obtain, but it is always obtainable. Something we see new to set 10. This was not something we saw before this set. You had to get an augment to get there. You had to get level up, but now it's possible. Everybody tries to do it if you can, but a lot fail to do so. And one thing that I've noticed from Pitsy is absolute Giga Chad, finding different ways, finding different lines, and just putting out strong board after strong board and dominating what you're seeing not only in the early game, not only in the late game, but the mid game choices are so solid, so well orchestrated. And that's just what the name of the game is right now. If you want to be at the top of this set, the top of TFT, you got to know strongest board, not just from the early phase, not just through the late phase, but also in that mid phase where things really, really spice up.
Yeah, and this set, I think, has really been the peak so far of competitive TFT across the board, right? We've had this Vegas Open that was just this phenomenal tournament, followed shortly by, KDA Cup, Heartsteel's coming up soon, but we've also had the Study Group Clash, and Super Server has been going on. One of the players we're going to watch, Chaos, has been participating in that and absolutely clearing so many of the world's best competitors. There's such a rich environment for competitive TFT. And so a lot of these players are coming into this already with 2, 3, 4 tournament settings under their belt with really good placements. And so they're already operating at week 2 on the level we're used to seeing, maybe in the playoffs, in the finals. And so it's just going to be incredible to see how these players, as the tournaments continue, as ACL continues, really continue to hone their game. And honestly, who's going to put in the work, right? Going from early to mid to late game and always knowing your strongest board, knowing your outs, really knowing how to flex into these different lines is obviously very, very important. And it takes a lot of time and energy and research and effort and VOD reviewing and working with your study group to get to that level. And so much as we grind through, 4 games every week leading up to the playoffs, who in between Saturdays is putting in the work? Who's not just, grinding on ladder, but who's VOD reviewing, who's talking, who's theory crafting, who is putting in that time to really elevate themselves to the next level?
VOD review is the key to the game, I feel there. When you're seeing people put in that extra time, it's not just jamming games. It's literally finding out what's best by playing with your group, by playing with players that you might think are better than you, getting different approaches time and time again. And here we are jumping in to game number 3. We do have some players staring clear of that treasure armory, but we do see 3 champions and this Shrendo now?
Decrescendo. And that's
thank you.
Been a really interesting one on this patch, and it is the one that we're going to see, and this could be a really interesting game. I know that there are some players, I know in particular Appies, but a lot of players will shoot for this 4-2 silver recombobulator. Have you seen this tech where you try to hit that 3-star, 3 cost on 7 going into 4-2, hoping you hit Recombob to get that 3-star 4 cost on your board? So this could be a really exciting game if somebody is able to pull that off.
No, that would absolutely be bonkers to see. We want to see something like that come out of one of these lobbies, as it makes our job as casters just that much easier to lose our minds. But more importantly, the thing that I really am looking forward to see here is how Ashmu, one of the most hyped players from the Vegas Open, is going to craft this opening board. We do see them possibly electing to pick up this Nami here, and that will put them on to Disco right out the gate, but they are waiting to see if they're going to get an AP item, and there is a glove here, which is pretty flex.
Yeah, they can play pretty much whatever option that they want to from here, and choosing not to go with that, maybe hoping something better will come up. They do take this Bruiser Olaf. We've seen Olaf reroll be a very safe option, right? Unless you're chatting and you hit the D key on accident. But otherwise, we've seen it be a very strong, very stable board throughout the game. And worth noting that we do have Ashmu subbing in for David Ace, and I believe Ramen Blitz is subbing in for another one of our players as well. So worth keeping your eye on there. That these are players who have not necessarily played the first couple of games. They're just jumping in playing as subs.
Anila here does have access to early Heartsteel. Getting it here at 2-1 is crazy, and it is awesome to see these subs stepping up for their either teammates or possibly just their study group or even just a friend. But it's what I look forward to when we do have this style of league. Something that is so unique about Aegis TFT is that we do have leagues that are weekly tournaments instead of just being the long weekly event such as Cups.
Right. And here, from this spot, having that Heartsteel in early, getting that Harm Assist online, you're going to get value from your augment immediately, right? After this first fight, they're probably going to lose. After this first fight, they're immediately getting that value, very synergistic with what they hit, and sitting on that Yone pair. That leads directly into possibly the Yone reroll that we've seen be not only very popular, but extremely contested.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with these items that we're seeing as well. We do see a open bow, an open glove, which could go into an IE, could get that Titans going as well, allowing this Yone to scale into fights, take down front lines, and dash to those back lines and absolutely destroy anything in his path. I love me seeing Yone reroll. Been playing it since the PvE days, and I can't wait to see where this one goes.
Yeah, coming over to Chaos, who, as I mentioned, has been playing pretty much all week on the Chinese super server, who did take Kroll Pact and, if I'm not mistaken, lost. Leveled to 6, took Kroll Pact, and took a nasty hit. Not what you expect on 2-1 when you take this augment and level to 6.
No, that's not what you want to be happening either. You are looking usually for an early reroll strat. Did probably not have the strongest front line as we're seeing that right now. Does have some solid CC through the Vex and the Kennen, but does have just a 1-star Nico really to take on this damage. No tank items either with that access. So this is definitely going to be kind of tough when you go into boards like this, where we see 2 Kennen 2s coming down from Domper. This is not where you want to be at if you're Chaos.
Yeah, but this Vex unit is not normally, and that huge AoE CC came through in a really clutch way, doing a ton of damage and CCing that line, allowing that Corki to really pump up that damage. Has the Giant Slayer slammed, which is usually a sort of later game third item slam, but just doing everything that they can. And we're being told that the reason that they lost, despite going Cruel Pact, is there's another Cruel Pact player in the lobby, and they faced off at 2-1, which is, again, not the outcome that you want if you're on the losing side.
Right, no, you definitely don't want to be stuck in that spot when you run into the other Cruel Pact player, but was fortunate to pick up the win there and is now going to hopefully be off to the races, hoping to 2-star some of that front line. But we are here now with Relic with that Bruiser reroll strat and does have access to a potential Titan Slam here on this Olaf.
However, we can see here that they're pre-leveled to 7, so they are potentially in a spot where they're going to be able to generate that gold, be at 7, and re-roll down for some of these really contested units way earlier than anyone else in the lobby. They're going to be seeing those level 7 shops for the whole rest of this stage, all of stage 3, a stage and a half before anyone else is able to see Yone, able to see Riven, able to see a lot of forecasts in the same way. So Relic here in a really good spot, but sitting at 10 HP. If they go up against Cruel Pact again, if somebody at 3-2 is able to hit something really monumental like a Endless Hordes or something like that, they could be in real trouble.
True, but they are fortunate to be potentially the strongest board. That's usually what you do have happen when you scout, look around, see, okay, I can pre-level to 7 here. I only need a few things to get my board there. Does elect to take this Riven with a cloak, and I'm not sure from the items that I saw on the bench if that does actually turn directly into a Bloodthirster here, but does get a Riven and does open up that angle for that Bloodthirster.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we're talking about before. Like, you're going to have that opportunity to, one, hit these shops earlier than everybody else, but two, get that prime choice, right? With the carousel. You're sitting here at 13 HP at 2-4. You can pick whatever item, whatever unit you want. And here we can see they're slotting in that Riven. They're getting that 8-bit stacking sooner than later. They have a pair of Rivens sitting on their bench right now, and this could very quickly turn into a stage 2 Riven 2.
Yes, it could, and does elect to pick up the chosen Kale here to get to these edgelords quickly, and now it's almost onto pentakill as well, which is not something you usually see players just trying to go for in the early game. But when you're at level 7 like this, you do have access to potentially sitting on 3 pentakill, 5 pentakill, and scaling into these fights. It's almost as if you're at the late game, but you're only in stage 2.
Yeah, and we see here the QSS slammed on the Kale, more than likely item holding for, I would imagine, the Riven, who does want that CC immunity as they're dashing around the board. So maybe saying to the rest of the lobby, look, I'm re-rolling a 3 cost, all right? It might be Yone. I've got 2 Rivens. It might be Riven. But at this point, like, I think you take what you hit. And, both of all of the items that they have here, set them up for playing Yone, for playing Riven, for playing whatever comes their way.
Yes, that's exactly where they want to be at. They do already have that Titans, as we've been talking about as well. One thing that I do want to make note of here is this pair of Rivens. You don't want to slam your Riven items onto a 1-star Riven ever. That's just not where you want to be at. You always want to try to get these items onto a chosen so you can keep this win streak alive. Already at 4, does have a chance of getting to that first threshold of gold here. Stacking up lots of 8-bit stacks early on is really what makes this Riven reign supreme into the late game.
Yeah, and that chosen Kale being able to bring that edgelord online, right, does empower your Riven, but you also have this 2 cost in the back line that's going to be pumping out that damage and giving you those big high score numbers early. Here, a convincing win against Domper, and this is definitely I think Relic should feel like they're in a very safe spot to compete for a win out in this lobby. They are gaining HP every single time that they win. This is a change from previous sets where Cruel Pact, you just lost the HP and that was that. Here, you're gaining some HP back every single time you get through a round. And now we're looking at Nihil here, who is raising the stakes, something we do not often see in a tournament setting.
Yeah, we didn't see it very much. There was actually recently a video out from the cup that Frodan dropped, I believe that was yesterday, talking about how you saw the GOAT of NA Setsuko do a double 2 times stake raise, and that's very, very uncommon. So I'm hoping that we see Nihil not really try to push it too far like that. Does have this harm assist, does have item slam to potentially go into Yone with an open bow and a IE already, but could flex between that AD flex, but does find this Yone 2 at 3-1.
Already in such a phenomenal spot, and you start to think like, man, I better be careful because there are going to be some boards out here that don't have Yone 2, right? That don't have these upgrades, and you're probably selling this Kale here, making 50, keeping your board weak, because at this point, if Nihil is wins against a weaker board, if Nihil happens to go up against somebody who griefs them, they're going to lose half of those heart stacks and start from the ground up.
Right, and that's the last thing you want to have happen going up against Nazareth here. Tarzan is going to always try to find this Heartsteel, has been playing it for so long, is a part of my study group, summer camp, and has been playing Heartsteel since its conception and absolutely loves this line. Nihil does get to that loss though, as Tarzan's board was pretty strong there. Look at these 102 stacks already, is now about to go into their next augment. Still not on a chosen unit, so it's pretty weak, and that's exactly what we want to be at. Very healthy though is finding the right sides of the boards. The most important thing that you want to do when you raise the stakes like this is obviously lose. That's the obvious thing, but it's also scout enough to find what side of the board you need to position your units, so therefore you're killing the enemy units at least 1, if not 2, if not 3, and getting the perfect losses that you need to stay alive into the late game for these cash outs to actually take effect on your board.
Yeah, and as we're looking around the lobby, we come to Ashmu, who has this pentakill spat online. They took long distance pals here, and remember, Decrescendo, we know guaranteed that we're going to have a silver augment coming up on 4-2. So, in a pretty good spot with this pentakill online. They have some clear direction. Obviously, this Urgot holding items for the Akali later, coming up here, just trying to make their way through this lobby and save as much HP as they can, pushing to that level 7. How does it feel, Z-Boy, when you're in a spot like this where you're playing for a later game comp in a lobby that has so much tempo with 2 Cruel Pact players?
Well, when you actually have best in slot items on Urgot 1 through the first stage, it feels pretty good. You really do want to see that red buff and an IE, and also 5 pentakill right now. You got the scaling Olaf as well, tucking in that Mordekaiser to allow yourself to feel pretty comfortable. This is a good spot for Ashmu. And one thing Ashmu has always said about themselves is that they are a reroll master. They've definitely talked about themselves in such manner, but we're not seeing much reroll here. We are seeing that cap out board style. This red buff plus IE plus the Titans could end up on to what you might think would be a potential, the Viego, or maybe even on to an Akali, whichever one you can 2-star first. But Rain, this is a really good spot for Ashmu. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Also elects to play some of the early Karthus items onto this Mord 1 just to try to keep some life going, but might just streak this entire stage because of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Ashmu is in a great spot. We're coming up here on the 3-4 carousel. Worth noting, Relic down now to 5 HP and Chaos on this win streak. I noticed earlier during the augments, I believe Chaos hit a Samira 2 pretty early on here. So haven't seen their board in a while, but we can make some assumptions about that board strength as we're coming up on this the tail end of this carousel. Man, it's so interesting seeing an Ari go last pick after a whole month and a half of Ari.
Yeah, you can see that these devs do know what they're doing when it comes to nerfs. They're really, really good at finding what is too powerful and how to make it still not completely out of the meta, but not being the one that's defining the meta after it has been doing that for so long. And now Nihil is going to get that cash out and moves in to 6 Yones at this point, 6 of them. Not the one you want to see though, is a Heartsteel. Is a little bit awkward, but is very close to hitting that big play that we've been talking about, and that is a 3-star Yone. Could be playing just for placement in this situation, is getting pretty low on HP, does elect to throw those gloves, those blacksmith gloves, onto the other Yone too, just to make sure that they are not going to just die here as this goes into later stages, getting pretty low at 32.
Yeah, and this is always the trade-off with these kind of econ setups in TFT is you're going to have to trade some HP for that big bonus, that hopefully that big cash out that you get. We didn't see the actual cash out, but we can see, they still have this Heartsteel online. They're still losing fights, but they have so much potential to really hit that next level with their board if they're able to find this Yone 3. I look at this and say, okay, you got a cash out. Great. It doesn't look like it was quite impactful enough to make their board spike so hard that they should feel safe.
True, but they did get 2 of those blacksmith items with the blacksmith gloves. I believe that has to be the item that they got. I don't see anything else that really got them there. And there's a lot of life still on this board. So if those can get put onto a Zed, or even a Kiana later on, this board will actually be popping off. One thing we are lacking is a little bit of shred though, right? We don't have any shred in the form of an Even Shroud, of a Last Whisper. So that is something that we need, but we do have access to one with an open glove. We're getting a lot of gold here though. We are cashing some gold, not so much for Nihil, but we are seeing that for Dumper. And I believe that was a gold collector that was making that happen, or a Goldmancer's staff. Goldmancer's
staff, I believe it was, and one of the nice things about having that blacksmith's gloves is you get situations like that where you get a hologram, of your Yone 2 on your other Yone 2 and wind up with 3 Yones on the board, which is going to allow you to walk through plenty of boards, as we're seeing here. Tarzan playing like he's in an earlier set, backlining all of his units to make sure that he doesn't lose to Wolves. The Wolves have been nerfed pretty considerably since the early days of TFT, but playing it safe. And he does have this shopping spree augment. He's probably going to be rolling a ton. I don't think he's rolled a single time this game, and hits this Heartsteel Ezreal right off of the bat. And boom, 6 Heartsteel in. Now you're starting to say, oh, where's the Kayn? There he is. 7 Heartsteel potentially on the board for Tarzan here, and he hardly had to use any of his rolls.
Yep, and that's exactly where you want to be at. Has 7, is pretty healthy as well at 36 HP, so could potentially, just rock this for a little bit, get to that next Heartsteel. Is finding a lot of these 5-cost units though. Yeah. Now has a Lowy. We are on to the AD flex. We have good items for EZ. We have a Thieves Gloves for Arcane, and now we are just waiting to see if we can 2-star the rest of our front line, and this is exactly where Tarzan wants to be in this spot.
Yeah, and this is an interesting matchup now, seeing Nihal, who has had that Heartsteel online, has had these Yones kind of coming online, and finally taking a win against Tarzan, who is a higher level, but slotted in that 7 Heartsteel, a board designed to lose, and unintentionally, I think, griefing Nihil in the process.
Yeah, that grief was pretty solid. I don't know if I saw a raise the stakes over there, as that would be pretty greedy, but look at how many stacks we have here already, Rain. We have 206 stacks, because 7 Heartsteel in stage 4 is absolutely bonkers if you are still looking for those cash outs, and we are right around the corner from them. We're going to stay right here. We're not going anywhere. Wait a second. That was a visual bug though, right? We had just had a cash out, so why was it still jumping around? I was confused myself.
It's a visual bug that happens from time to time. I think we'd seen the numbers reset before, and oh my goodness, he is one off of hitting Kayn 2 here so early. The power of this augment, if you're able to save up all of your rerolls every single time you level, you get so many chances for free to see these really impactful units using those shop odds on 8. And so we can see here, Yorick pair, Kayn pair, Thresh pair. We hit the Ezreal 2. We leveled up our set, and in terms of gold, they didn't have a ton of gold when they leveled, didn't need it. had the gold that they needed to buy their headliners, had the gold they needed to really spike this board. And if they can take a 1-unit loss here, that would be absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I mean, hammer time is here, but Nazrat still getting great value out of the 7 Heartsteel is fine with a loss here. 21 HP, plenty to go. I want to note out that Relic is down to 6, lost again as one of our players who is on Cruel Pack. That is not very good for them, but that is okay. We are now switching over there to check out what happened, and they did hit Karthus 3.
Whoa! He hit the Recon Bob into the Karthus 3. Called it at the beginning. This is the dream play. You're, able to, especially with that Cruel Pack, hit that level 7 early, roll down early, find units early, and pray for this Recombobulator. Gets this 3-star Karthus on the board. Now, these items, not it, right? Not exactly what you're looking for, but Karthus also one of, I think, the weaker 3-star 4 costs, without crit, without any sort of like AP amp. Look at the damage that this Karthus 3 is just not doing to this board. I mean, it hit that Vex at 1/3 HP, and it still wasn't quite enough. Is the BT going to be enough to do it? If he can survive the cast, he gets a little bit of a lump, but here comes the Poppy. It's hammer time. This thing has no mana gen. It's not healing nearly enough, and Karthus 3 goes out in 8th place because Poppy came to play today.
That is tough to see as Relic getting that Recombobulator. You had stated earlier, I was like, this Rain guy might be onto something here, and you were. That was pretty woach, but did not have the right items to get into a spot to hit the unit they needed to absolutely pop off, take over this game. Did use Cruel Pack to maybe do exactly what they needed, but it was just a little too late. Their back was against the wall, and that's going to be all they wrote for Relic here out in 8th of Game 3 of Week 2 of the ACL. And we do see a lot of items coming up off this carousel as we jump over to Domper, our other. No, they're just low. I thought this was our other.
They're just low.
Player. Yeah. But I realized they're just low. That is tough, but does have a pretty strong board here as a disco player, right? 6 disco in, 4 Dazzler, does have that Alawi as well. The only thing that is looking kind of sketch here, though, is that TF1.
Yeah, not the only thing looking sketch. I mean, you've got this Blitz 2, which is great, right? You've got that front line with the Alawi, but Bard 1, TF1, you're just not necessarily going to see the damage that you're really looking for on this board. And if this Yone can wrap into the back line, and it does not, but that is your worst nightmare, that Yone wrapping in early and taking your damage off the board. But this TF just does not seem like it has the pace, even with, this Harm Assist coming online, giving them some sustain, does not have the pace to keep up with this Yone. Domper going to go out in 7th place as we move over to Ramen Blitz, who has Seraphine 3 online. And this is a comp that's been kind of up and coming, a little niche, not a lot of people necessarily believing in it, but Ramen Blitz holding on here with 24 HP and the Seraphine 3 Dream.
Does have the shred they need. They're getting close to that Nico 3 as well. One thing I do want to point out for all those disco players, Domper had a positioning diff there as well. You want to find a way to protect your board from those crowd divers from hitting you. Usually want a disco ball to the right, just get your carries away from that ability, get your carries free farming the Yasuo, or not the Yasuo, but the Yone or the Riven in those edge Lord scenarios, get them dashing back towards the middle. We saw it once, but it only happened the one time, and there was no armor on that Blitzcrank, so it was just too little too late.
Yeah, and here we're seeing the power of that anti-heal against this Yone unit. They were saying at the very beginning of the broadcast, anti-heal is absolutely vital in this meta with so much sustain on the board. And, this is sort of like the nuts in terms of the items that you can have on this Seraphine. She's casting off and she's doing a ton of damage. She's spreading that anti-heal around, making sure that these really tanky melee units are not going to be able to outpace the damage that you're putting out. And a huge win for Ramen Blitz. Nihal dropping down to 12 and 1 off, I should note, of that Yone 3. So that fight there could have been a Yone 3 diff. We'll have to see if that really shakes up how this lobby plays out as we finish up this creep round here.
True. And what you were saying about these perfect items, one thing I do want to say is, or actually, Rain, I have a question. Do you think that we're about to see a nerf to Morello's after we just saw a buff? Did it get overtuned?
I think the damage amp piece of it was meant to entice people to make an item that no one makes. And if that's the case, they succeeded. Maybe a little overtuned, but honestly, I think sometimes that's fine. It's not game breaking. It's not War Week, right? It's not Static Shiv in set 4, but it is something that you suddenly want to build. And we see here Nihal did hit that Yone 3, and that's a huge difference as we're looking at Ashmu, who is on 1 life and has so few upgrades. They just weren't able to really find the upgrades that they needed to that Akali. And now it looks like Ashmu is going to be our next one out, dropping out in 6th place to this fully online Yone 3.
That is just the dagger of set 10 that can come for you sometimes. Sometimes those roll downs for the Chosens that you need just don't get you there, or you maybe tried to play a little too flex in the early game, missed something. But unfortunately for Ashmu, we did not get to see exactly what that something could have been. But I will say that board was looking pretty capped, minus having a 2-star carry, and that is just unfortunate. And we see an Echo 3 found for Ramen Blitz on the right side over there. That is going to be a massive spike for that Seraphine board that was already so powerful, but is down to 1 HP. Are they going to be able to stay alive here? We do see a lot of motions here happening. Whoa, that was a crazy, crazy flex here that just happened to get to this board state.
Yeah, and Marine here still like plugging items on, taking all the time that they can and a little bit more, and it does not look like it's going to make much of a difference. We can see here that Tarzan with that huge sort of 7 Heartsteel has turned it into a Yorick 2, the Kayn 2. This Ezreal has the blue buff on. He's got the Lucian on the board, spreading that shred around, and this is looking like the board to beat. Unfortunately, Ramen, we didn't get to see that Echo 3 because he went out in 5th place. I'm not sure who he fought, but with Echo 3 and potentially Nico 3 on the line, that Seraphine board was looking pretty strong. I'm very curious what he fell to and what the rest of the lobby is looking like at this state in the game.
Yeah, that had to be chaos if I'm not mistaken. We did see Marine up against Nihil, and it might have even been, or no, that was Marine versus Nazareth. My bad. Did Nihil get the ghost potentially there then, or was Ramen's board actually not strong enough to beat chaos on a ghost? I'm not sure. We obviously weren't checking that out at the time, but what we are seeing is this Yone 3 in a great spot to dash in and take down this TF.
And in an instant, it seems like TF is out of this game. Yone getting that perfect dash from the front line into the back line, kills unit. The nearest thing is that TF, and in a couple swipes, he's gone. A little bit of cleanup there at the end, and Nihil looking real strong. And Marine's board, going through a bit of a transition through the last 2 turns, still missing some key ingredients to really cap it out and compete with the other boards in the lobby.
Yeah, that is just an unfortunate positioning diff again. Like I was talking about, these disco players think you can kind of just AFK, put these units in front of things, but you really need to get your front line, your best unit, that Blitzcrank, right? All those tank items need to go in front of the Yone, get them stuck there. Allow your carry to free farm it so it does not scale up, does not get the cannon fodder it needs, but that is just not happening right now. It's all right though. They're the players for a reason. I only recently learned about these positioning diffs thanks to getting a Challenger VOD review this week of my plays, and they taught me a whole lot.
And here we're looking at Chaos, who has this 6 Executioner board online that has been gaining in popularity as well. People started to notice the value of this Vex unit through Twin Terror, and now started finding, okay, well, if you don't have Twin Terror, how can we abuse this absolutely busted unit? Coming up against Marine's TF board, can they kill the Vex in time? They can. Marine taking a nasty 4-unit loss here, in Chaos still on level 7, one off Samira 3, and large and in charge in this lobby. Marine dropping down to 3 HP. We're still waiting on Tarzan and Nihil, which is going to be a big fight. Tarzan taking the loss there with that huge board, and Nihil moving up with that 12 HP still, but Tarzan hitting the Alawi 2. This lobby is getting hot.
Yeah, super spicy. I mean, we're seeing a lot of innovation here. As you said, this 6 Executioner board that's kind of been catching on recently, very recently at that. One Samira away from hitting Samira 3. No double trouble. It's not necessary. We saw a 3-star Echo go down from Ramen Blitz. That is true because Echo did get a little bit of a nerf, I believe, this patch, making him a little bit more accessible, right? People were overplaying Echo. Now it's a little easier to find that unit than it was last patch, but I think that also has to do with the nerf to Ahri. Look at this fight, Rain. Oh my god, the 3-star battle.
Absolutely, and this Yone has managed to dodge this Vex for so long, but right at the last second, she gets an ult off. CC's just in time to be able to carry that fight, and Chaos is looking unstoppable. And that came down to just one swipe from that Yone, not able to get off, not able to polish off that Vex. And now here's Tarzan with another cash out, getting that Radiant Crown Guard online. This board is giga capped. We've got the Alawi 2, we've got the Kane 2, we've got the Yorick 2, we've got this absolute banger of a Demon Slayer on Lucian 2. What is it going to take to stop Tarzan?
Tarzan might be our winner here. We will have to see what that fight brings up. I don't know if there's anything stopping this board. So many 5-cost 2-stars, but let's not count out Chaos just yet. Tarzan is on 10 units though, does have that Tactician's Crown, right? Is on level 9, has so many 2-star 5-casts. All itemized, double Thieves Gloves, and these were some massive rolls on those Thieves Gloves.
Huge on for all of these units, hitting pretty much the best. Like when did you get a 4th augment? When did Lucky Gloves show up for Tarzan here? And this could, with this many units on the board, I don't think Chaos is weak enough to take 27 here, but this could be a nasty loss if that's the way that it shakes out. Is this Vex going to be able to hit this clump and clear out some of this front line? It looks like we did get the Samira 3 online. We have the front line still going. The Ezreal ult not enough, but Lucian coming in to clean it up, and Chaos going to take a big hit here on this first round of stage 6.
10 units, this power level. Did you see that EZ ult? It just shredded through that backline. Does get on to a Kiana 2 as well. This positioning from Tarzan is brilliant. Getting access to the backline, finding different options, and hitting the giant clumps, not only with the EZ, but also with the Lucian ult. Took down the Vex, took down the Samira, and this might be Tarzan's game to lose.
Yeah, and being able to slot in obviously big beefy frontliners in the Bruisers, big beefy frontliners in the Guardians with those Vex ults coming through. Yeah, it's a ton of burst damage, but it's not enough to crack these shields. It's not enough to crack these resistances. However, these TG items not as cracked as before. Can they finish the job? Can they polish it off? The Vex is down, the Samira is down, Chaos is down, and Tarzan taking game 3 here in ACL week 2.
Man, this Tarzan guy just absolutely loving Heartsteel. I've been saying it. I had to ban it. I had to ban it in my viewer games in PvE to be like, yo, Tarzan, you got to play something.
You can't do it, buddy.
Yeah, you're stomping us, dude. You're stomping us. And continues to show their dominant play with this. Oh my gosh. It's so good. It's so good to watch. Tarzan does it better than the rest. I swear. Just knows how to cap out boards.
One of the things about this Heartsteel line is it's so risky. We see that these players who are playing at the highest level slotting in 5, 7 Heartsteel and winding up going 7th and 8th because they didn't get the cash out in time. They raised the stakes when they shouldn't have. They didn't manage their HP or their econ in the right way. Tarzan putting on an absolute masterclass. Granted, some very, very lucky rolls coming through as a result of their augment picks and the amount of econ they were able to save with Shopping Spree. But you couldn't have asked for a better game, a better series than that from Tarzan, showing us exactly how it's done.
Nope, exactly. Stole the words right out of my mouth. Just out of this world. Great cash outs as well. Getting so many Thieves Gloves, or might have been playing for those a little bit more than I thought. I think one did come out of that box of Justice, and that was just all they wrote at that point. Thieves Gloves on those 2-star 5-costs is exactly what you need, but don't be at a positioning diff going into this next game like some of our players might have been in this last game. So yeah, keep it locked. We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Rain, joined again by Z-Boy Wonder here for Game 4 of Week 2 of the ACL. And just looking around some of the other games in this lobby or in this week, we were talking about Gio before being able to pull off some pretty incredible clutches. I know he just literally came off of Study Cup. He was able to pull down a second. Shaco, who's been playing like crazy today, pulling first. Red Sword and Appies going first and second respectively in Group 2, and Kurt Angle and Coach Mac, who are some mainstays around the community and certainly in ACL, pulling down the first and second places in Group D2. It's going to be great to see the final scores. Look at how this tournament, this group is going to shake out. We are going back to Group B2, and tell me, Z-Boy Wonder, we saw this crazy lobby. We saw lots of people trying to like figure out what they were going to do with these big spikes or whiffing on their spikes. Coming into this Game 4, do you feel like people are now starting to learn each other a little more, learn each other's play styles, and anticipate maybe what's going to come their way and what's going to be contested and what's not?
I think that is definitely something we're starting to see a little bit more, right? People are getting a little bit more familiar with who their group is, at least, especially like this stage. We're starting to see the meta. It has been here for the start of the ACL, right? We've had the same meta. We're on the same patch here so far. We're obviously going to see things shake up as we move into a new patch. I think this patch did get figured out a little faster than we kind of would have expected, but we are still seeing some spice, right? We are still seeing some spice. But things are pretty thorough. Like, they're up front. You got the face value stuff happening, but that's where things really start to get innovative, especially in these high calibers of play. We did just have a cup, so a lot of the innovation that we are seeing right now is face value. There is going to be more spice. We're going to see better cash outs. I feel like the cash out board right now is a fast 9 comp, essentially. So if you can get yourself there with just enough HP, as we saw with Tarzan in this last game, was able to get there. But one thing I am very interested in seeing is Coach Mac has been a mainstay here in ACL. Absolute juggernaut of a player. Kurt Angle as well, ladder champion, does show up a lot. Also chatter champion. I think I see this dude in everybody's chat. Just always
everybody's
there showing
Discord,
support.
everybody's chat.
Yeah. Just good human, just good people, great community member. We'd love to have him here inside of the Aegis TFT community. So yeah, I mean, I love all these players, right? As you were saying, we have so many players coming off of tournaments, doing well in those tournaments, and then finding their way into our leagues and showcasing how this talent pool is just continuing to push each other to get better and better at this game that we love.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to touch on with the solved quote unquote meta, right, is oftentimes what we see when the meta has been sort of like worn out, right? Like when people know that they know the lines, they know what's good, they know what's bad, is that a next piece of skill expression saying, right, okay, I know there's not that much room to wiggle, so I have to really know what to do maybe from a bad spot, or I have to know other people's play styles and make choices to maybe play a line I'm not so comfortable with. And so even though the meta is solved, now you're starting to get into those little positioning differences, those little decisions that people make round by round that have a huge impact on the game.
More prismatic. More prismatic. Here we are again with more prismatic augments coming our way. I love the first tier prismatic. I mean, we had Decrescendo. We now have a prismatic prelude. And yeah, just touching on what you were saying about players starting to actually get an idea of it. Another big thing that it is that you get not just from knowing what your opponents are doing, but realistically, you're scouting and understanding positioning, right? Anybody can play a comp, but when you're playing a comp perfect, it's because you know the ins and out, you know the matchups, what you're bad against, what you're strong against. And when you're bad against something, you really got to know, all right, where do my units need to be to put me in the best spot to maybe take a small loss here, to move me up from that 6th, to move me up from that 5th, to get me into top 2, because it really does, as we saw in the last game, come down to sometimes just one loss.
Absolutely. You get into these spots where every single HP matters. And when you're playing at this like high level, anyone will tell you every single HP does matter, because so often you find there's a round where 3 players go out and the difference in placements is going to be 2 to 3 HP. So you took a 5 unit loss instead of a 3 unit loss here in stage 2. That's going to have an impact in the later game.
Is this about to happen? Did anybody else hear that? Huh? 6 Annies? 6 Annies at 1-4. Unfortunately, it's not an emo Annie. It is going to elect to maybe try to get the econ drop here. If this is a gold drop, we'll be able to get to is Tarzan watching the stream? Because I swear, we're out here. Or Tarzan's just looking to go in to that Old Faithful again. Heartsteel gets dropped to Yone and is able to stay. Oh my, man, my heart.
Can Yone solo? Can Yone solo? It just barely can.
Wow,
and
does not get that gold. Let's get 2 items.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. As we know, the first augment here going to be Prismatic. We saw how big of an impact that first Prismatic can have on a game. These selections here, maybe not the most impactful. Are you re-rolling? Is there one that really stands out to you here from this selection?
I mean, I'm re-rolling going long. I'm for sure re-rolling that one personally. I know a lot of people do like it, and we're going long, I guess, is probably trying to get to that fast 9 board again. Is probably very, very comfortable on it, obviously, and it allows you to loss streak and feel okay about your loss streaks. I personally did not hate taking the buried treasures there, as we only had 2 items, but I mean, Tarzan, you know what you're doing. I'm just gonna watch and enjoy. I'm just gonna cast it here.
Yeah, we're going to be able to look around at some of the other prismatics that have been picked up, but Tarzan here slamming that IE on this early Yone. Almost certainly, you know, when you're in a spot here on 2-1 where you have one of these hard to hit Heartsteel units, you're almost always looking to say, okay, how do I get that, you know, Aphelios? How do I get that Heartsteel Cassante? How do I get that online as quickly as possible? As we've seen, you know, you can run Heartsteel in a lot of different directions. It'll be really interesting to see how long he holds on to this Yone if he can't hit Heartsteel, and where he might go with this IE later in the game. And that is 2 misfortunes in a shot.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful to see. If you are trying to maybe even play a reroll Jazz spot, it is a little awkward, I feel, to play some of these lower level of reroll comps when you do have a guaranteed prismatic to start things off. The tempo of the lobby is just a little too fast, a little too hard, a little too strong. But here we are with Marine, and I do see the Disco Overlord herself, the Nami 2, with, that is right, a Radiant Archangels and the frontline units of a Kennen 2 and the Disco Tarek. This is a scary board.
Absolutely is a scary board. We're looking at Chaos here, who I believe took that shopping spree augment that we've seen be so popular. It pretty much won last game single-handedly. The strength of that level 8 roll down, getting so many free rolls. Chaos building up that econ and taking a 4-unit loss here. Marine with an extremely strong start. We should be able to expect them to compete for a win streak throughout this stage.
Yes. Stage 2 is looking like it's got to be Marines. I mean, I don't know how many times you've played Archangel on a Nami 2 with a solid front line in this set there, Rain, but it's pretty broken.
Yeah, she's gonna. And speaking of pretty broken, here is the option for that Seraphine. We saw Ramen pilot it to a 5th last game, but certainly at this point in the game, having that upgraded 2-star with something like a Radiant Archangels is pretty tempting. It looks like Marine is not going to be baited by this. No other KDA units to speak of, but a pretty enticing option there.
Yeah, it really is. You know, you heard me kind of drop my jaw to the floor there, and that's just because this is the chosen Seraphine you want in this scenario, because it gets online a little earlier. We do have the super fan formula of a Kennen 2 as well, and we still could have just been running Disco here. I mean, Disco was still available, but I understand why we're staying, and this fight is going, like I said, that Archangels on a Nami 2 is just too strong for stage 2.
And you have to wonder, if this were maybe a headliner Nami rather than that headliner Tarek, maybe that's a decision that would have been a little easier. But obviously having frontline early in the game, something as strong as a headliner Tarek giving you that 4 disco, I think that might have been the difference maker in that decision, saying, I can't give up on this beefy guy.
True. Yeah. I mean, that is just such good frontline. So much value out of that Tarek. And also on top of that, I mean, we do go down to only 3 disco, and 4 disco through stage 2 is very, very strong. And we do have 2 streakers going into this carousel. Relic is also up there with 100 HP, and I can't wait to see what they got going on their board.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see if these 2 boards do wind up clashing. And here is the Spellweaver version of the Seraphine online for Relic. They did take the bait. They are going for it here. They have the Morello online. They have 2 tiers. I don't believe Seraphine really likes the blue buff the same way Ari does. She much prefers the Spear of Shojin, but we've got this Randuin's, we've got this Banshee's Veil. This is going to be a very tanky board, very difficult to beat down.
Yes, it is. And we do see the 2 streakers running into each other here. The one thing I was about to say before we saw these boards teleport to each other was that Banshee's Veil and the Randuins aren't really Seraphine's favorite items to be seeing. So we might see Relic pivot from this spot, but does have 4 Seraphine already.
Yeah, and we are really seeing the value of this 4 disco. Even though Seraphine has that anti-heal, the units are just so tanky. They've got these big shields. Obviously, the Nami is just pumping out so much damage. We've hit almost 300 gained AP from this Archangels, and that 4 disco just able to pump out so much healing. The Guardian units shielding up, getting healed, getting topped off, and just shredding through Relic's board that does not have those key frontline upgrades that Marine can brag about.
Yeah, I think it's really, really hard to even want to try to slot in this disco here, right? As we are on this Randuin's, it's not going to be doing as much as it possibly could be doing, and it makes you have to play kind of a weird board position. As we are seeing here, though, too, it might have been potentially a stronger board just for that last round. I don't think they were winning through the disco. Radiant Archangels is just too strong for stage 2.
Yeah, and you almost feel like, at this spot, even though you've got the tier and the Morello slammed, like this combination of Randuins and Banshees is just absolutely the nuts if you're playing some sort of reroll comp like Riven, like Yasuo that has that frontline melee carry, right? You're beefing them up a little bit. You're giving them that CC. Playing it from this Seraphine spot is a little bit awkward. Also a little bit awkward having an Urgot 2 on 4 and losing.
Yeah, no, that is very awkward. That anti-heal coming in clutch, the extra bonus stats from the Randuins, so solid here. And I mean, the biggest thing, as you were saying about those reroll comps, is that so many times and so often are you looking for these items like QSS, the Quicksilver Sash, to allow yourself to get through CC, but you already have it with the Banshee's Veil. It's built in, baby, and you're getting some extra attack speed. So, one thing you do like, though, on your Seraphine is that extra attack speed. Don't need to find it through a red buff or even need to necessarily find it through a Rage Blade. Already getting that stat, just a little bit of love, a little kiss.
Just a little
that Banshee's Veil. Yep, just a little bit. Just
yeah,
a love.
And I think being in a spot where you have those 2 tiers, those can just as easily turn into a Hand of Justice, right? Those can just as easily turn into something that does fit that melee board. It'll be interesting to see how they negotiate through that training dummy with the support items and the items that they've slammed so far. We're looking at Dumper now, who is maybe considering possibly re-rolling Jax from this March of Progress spot.
Yeah, this is very, very interesting, right? Jax did get nerfed from the last patch, but does hold the items for Karthus, is what I'm kind of seeing here potentially pretty well, especially with the slam here of a JG, but could really just be going Jax all the way. Does have that EDM Jax, and it can be pretty strong still, is hurting for some lifesteal. This fight, though, not going the way they wanted it to, or is it just about, I don't know, we got Caster's Curse, I feel like we say something and it's just like, well, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. And here they come up against this Urgot 2 with the Giant Slayer that Ashmu is rocking, but a Domper here already on level 6. That extra unit might have been the difference maker there. Urgot 2 losing twice in a row, not what you'd expect. And we have another Prismatic, also not what you expect. And Domper here looking pretty hard at that stationary support. It is an instant click. We do have, if I'm not mistaken, the Chalice, and I can never remember Virtue of the Martyr. Thank you so much, Dumper. He didn't know either. He's like, let me read this. I don't know what this does. I don't know what this does. So, Dumper, thank you for right-clicking there to get my caster branding gear.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was our production staff, but we're going to give it to Domper. Domper gets points. Production, you guys are great, but Domper's better. Thanks for being a player, Domper. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making our life easier. So any hooser, look at this 3 Mosher. That's what's staring me in the eye right now. You want like 4? We can't level here, so we're just trying to hopefully get through some of these fights, and that is a scary ribbon. Chosen already?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, and Tarzan here on 7 already with that going long augment. I think you were right in that Domper is maybe angling for that Karthus line with the JG. We saw them slam the Spear of Shojin right at the beginning of this fight, almost certainly playing the long game for that, which is interesting to me because typically I think of March of Progress as a level 7 sort of augment, right? You're going to take this, you're going to spend a lot of time, you're going to have a lot of gold to roll on 7. And I feel like that pentakill kind of comes online really when you get to that level 8 and can fit all of your items, your units onto the board. So that'll be really interesting. And if I'm not mistaken here, that is a Twin Terror.
Yep, that is in fact a Twin Terror, but not usually the combination of units that we see with it, as those are best in slot items for this Olaf. And I don't know if double Olaf is enough, but I mean, it's got to be, right? Olaf 3 plus Olaf 2 both being fully itemized in the late game. I can see this coming together. Or it could be a pivot into a double Yone 3 game, which also is a little awkward because you need so many of these traits to get yourself to the exact power spikes that you need. This is an interesting game. Look at the bonks, though. Bonk, 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 bonk.
Bonk. And, regardless of how this winds up shaking out, right, you can conceivably move these Olaf items onto, your Sterix and your Titans onto some of your frontline units, that IE being one of the best items for Twitch, for instance. We are sitting here level 6, 50 gold, plenty of time to reset and roll down. Unless, of course, you get a carousel like this that might spike some people's boards pretty hard. 3 spats out there, one of them being on that Urgot.
Yeah, I thought I saw 3. I was just making sure. I blinked a couple times to verify. I was in fact seeing 3 spats on 3-4 carousel. This is going to be a bloodbath for some of these units, right? We saw country position with that March of Progress. The item slamming wasn't really necessarily there, but there was some Jaxes going down. And here with Nihil, we do see they are getting into a potential second Bloodthirster maybe, which is actually, like I said, right there in line with having 2. That's right, 2 Olafs. They're really good.
And they're slotting in that Olaf 1, and it'll be interesting to see if they slam that BT on that second one now or hold off. Obviously, when you combine into a 3-star, there's a little bit of trickery that has to go on with your items to make sure you get the items that you want on that unit. And so we'll have to see if Nihil sticks to this. They do slam the BT. They put it right there onto the Cassante for now. Cassante can benefit from that with that big burst damage he puts out. Speaking of that damage getting put out, this Olaf 2 has emerged as one of the premier headliners in this set early game. Olaf 2, especially with items like this, able to carry you so far. The more you hit him, the harder he hits. What an incredible design for a unit, and Nihil seeing that value, slotting that on that board. And I do think it'll be really interesting to see an Olaf 3 Twin Terror game if that's the way that it plays out.
Wow. This was
That's
a
a shop.
crazy shop to show up to here. Chaos does have a Vex in the shop, does need to decide. Do they want to pivot here? Do they want to pick up this Vex? That gives them how many? Can you count that for me, Rain?
That's 7.
That's 7. Yeah, that's what I thought I saw as well. You know, like I said, I'm doing a lot of blinking over here.
Right.
Make sure I'm not missing anything. We got 6 Executioner. I mean, I personally think I would pivot. I think I would grab it. The Samira's not fully itemized. You have more items on your Vex here, and that makes you almost in a spot to where you're just never losing again if you can hit.
And we know that this Vex unit is, 1, so very strong, and 2, highly contested in so many of our lobbies. Having 7 there would have been a huge pickup, but looks like they are going to hold off on that for now, saying, maybe I don't want to give up a Samira 2. I've already got, 4 Vexes. Vex will come back. Not sure if that's going to be the case, but Chaos deciding, no, we'll hold off on that. Something better is coming around the corner.
Right. I haven't seen Chaos personally be jumping around looking at too many boards. We do see Ashmu come and take a look here, though, and is still checking things out, doing the numbers, trying to count out, all right, did they pivot? Did they stay? And now we do see Chaos take a quick peek and sees, oh, no, maybe I made a mistake. They have 5 Samiras already, and this is just Giga contested. I believe we have 2 Twin Terror players already, and then an Executioner reroll spot. This is going to be hard to hit those 3 stars this game for all these players.
Yeah, and worth noting, this is another Twin Terror board. So those units are going to be super contested, and it's entirely possible that, Chaos, if I'm not mistaken, might have locked that shop. As we were switching away into that creep round, it looked to me like they were still looking at the same shop. So entirely possible that they held and are going to make that switch, having scouted the lobby a little bit. It'll, obviously we'll get back there in time. Chaos, we can see hitting Samira 2 on the sidebar. Ashmu can't be happy for that being so far away, so close and so far from the Samira 3.
One thing we did miss a little bit there that I barely saw just at the beginning of that round was believe it was a Yone 3 for Nihil came in, and they're also on Twin Terror. What is happening in these prismatic lobbies, Rain?
What is happening is innovation like you can only get from this level of play. We often see, lower elo players who innovate because they don't necessarily know the lines. They're playing the best that they possibly can, maybe not ideal, maybe not strongest board, but then you get in a situation like this where we get a 3rd prismatic. Holy goodness gracious. I was about to curse on broadcast because why wouldn't you? Sometimes you find yourself in a spot where you say, okay, well, there's 3 Twin Terror players in my lobby. What is another good unit I can go for that's not going to be Vex, that's not going to be Twitch, that's not going to be Samira? Oh, the game is giving me a lot of Yones. I've heard that's a pretty good unit. Let's play that and see if it's good.
Yeah. No, could not agree more. I mean, look at all of the Yones over there. That means that they not only have 1 3-star, but they also have a 2-star that's getting buffed up as well. Ramen Blitz here moving into this Riven comp. What a weird roll down. Does have to elect to take it though. You got to do something or you're just going to keep bleeding out. Has some pretty solid items. Does have a board to move into Carthage here is what it looks like to me. And we are open to a spat as well with the big Nikos, the champion duplicator. My mistake there. I want to call it what it used to be, but it's not that anymore.
I do it all the time. Yeah, and we're going to see here the value of this double trouble. Oh, excuse me. That's not the right one. The value of this Twin Terror Yone coming out, and both of them now getting itemized. We have 2 Yones, 5 items, no waiting, and no winning against this board. Ramen going to take a 3-unit loss here, and this is the bleeding out that you're talking about. When you have 3 prismatics, when so many of these boards have so much power on them, if you're not absolutely massacring your roll down, you're going to get absolutely massacred by these boards that you're facing, because these boards ain't normally for stage 4.
No, especially thanks to all of these prismatics coming in, giving you tons of stats or giving you some of the best augments in the game. The tail of the take here has got to be how many Twin Terror players we have in this lobby. I believe it's 2, if not 3, and Dumper does find that Lux 3 as well. We were talking about what they were going to do on that March of Progress board. We were kind of confused from the AP item slams with all of those pentakill units, but does find a way, does find a line, and has been off to the races ever since.
And here's Chaos, who has hit this Vex 3. They did make that pivot that we were talking about. They have this Karthus 2 online. They got the Deathblade on the Samira. They've got 6 Executioner, and Executioner is right. Ramen taking another nasty loss here, and Chaos looking to be in a prime position, giga high rolling this absolutely bonkers comp.
Yeah, I mean, with the hedge fund, with the Lucky's gloves, and with that shopping spree, has exactly what they need. Tons of gold, tons of rerolls, and does make the right pivot. It's like we're nowheres. They knew we were nowheres over here. They wanted to make us right just for once in this broadcast.
You know, I can see who is in here listening to us. The stream is on a bit of a delay, so we can say confidently that the players are not in here taking pointers from us. They are just playing their best game, and we're commentating it the best that they can. No collusion, no spoilers. Stop the count. Stop the count.
Yep, please don't make us wrong anymore. It makes us look not so good. But here we are moving over to Relic with a crazy board here. Actually does have a really solid roll down, finds the Karthus too as well, and that is exactly what you need for a chosen from this spot, but are missing a couple of pieces. Does not quite have exactly what they need. No real mana. Oh wait, nope, they got the mana regen. I see it over there. It could be in the form of an adaptive helm.
Yeah, and this is one of those like hodgepodge, just trying to figure it out boards. I mean, the position's all over the place. We've got a Nico in the back line, Relic here just trying to like make lemonade out of all of these lemons. Still moving items around, slamming stuff, gets that pentakill onto the Poppy just as she dies. The Karthus is ramping up, but is he going to be able to cast in time and kill enough units? The Akali is moving back there, but she's 1 star, no items. However, the front line is starting to take a hit. It is just Karthus versus the world. Can he get one more cast off? He can't. Relic taking a loss. It is a transition, and Ramen breathing a sigh of relief after 2 nasty ones.
Yep, does finally get there. I believe picked up exactly what they needed for their board, which was the pentakill spat, and found a Viego. Viego is just not normally, man. Such a strong unit here. Not even into a 2-star, just a 1-star. But you get some good lifesteal going, you get some good positioning, and Viego can really carry you through fights.
Yeah, and Tarzan here hoping that he can get carried through this last fight, sitting on 390 out of 400, was at 7 Heartsteel, now drops it down to 5. 1 HP, needs to win this fight, absolutely needs to win this fight. We've got the Rageblade on the Lucian. He's starting to spread a ton of damage out. This Ezreal ult is going to be huge. It cuts across the back line. It doesn't quite kill the units that it needs to, but Lucian here to save the day. Can we do it? Yes, we can, and Tarzan at 414 stacks going into Raptors. This has to be the biggest cash out of all time, or else we're going to have to eat our words from last game. Tarzan goes from putting on a masterclass. Can he do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping so. Does get a Radiant blue buff here. Not exactly what they were hoping to cook up. Probably going to re-roll that one. Or, I mean, those items on the Ezreal are too good, man. That word was just evading me for some reason. I was like, what is that unit? What is that unit? It's Ezreal. Looking clean, looking happy. Ashmu, though, did kill exactly enough units to not go down an 8th here. That is quite the feat. Is missing quite a bit of 3-stars with so many reroll players in this lobby. The Executioner player, the 2 Twin Terror players, but one of them wasn't even on Executioner. It's the name of the game, baby. If you don't roll down on 3-5 when you're on these 7 costs, or on these level 7 reroll comps, you just aren't finding yourself exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, and Tarzan potentially a little bit away from, he keeps rolling past these sets, has this Lucian pair now that would be a huge spike to his board, and maybe holding onto that blue buff, hoping for a Jhin here. We know this Radiant blue buff would have been so good for that unit, and rerolls into this Demon Slayer. This Lucian is looking real tough. Is it going to be enough, though, to take down this Yone 3? Is the Ezreal going to be able to dodge this Yone that is working into the backline? We do have the red buff. We are applying the anti-heal, but it doesn't seem to matter. This Twin Terror Yone is a terror, and this is all she wrote for Tarzan. Double trouble Yone. You heard it here first. It's pretty good.
Yes, it is. It is very, very solid. And we do see that Ashmu was able to find that Samira 3 finally, get to that power spike they needed, and they live for another fight here, to fight another day. continuing to reroll. Does still need quite a bit to get to where they want to be at, though. Missing just 2 Amumu's and quite a bit of Vexes, though. As we saw, there is already a Vex 3 out of the pool. Ashmu, what can you do? Rain, what can Ashmu do to stay alive here?
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that there just aren't enough Vexes left in the pool for him to be able to hit. So you've got this Samira, you've got to protect it at all costs, obviously. But Samira, we know, is doing that single target damage. The benefit of having Vex is that she does this big burst. She does this AoE CC. Now the Yone's in the back line. It's chunking through the Samira, but the Samira is chunking through the Yone like it's not even there. And Ashmu might not need that much help taking down Nihal's contesting Twin Terror board with relative ease, shocking ease.
That was beautiful positioning, honestly. This binary airdrop bringing some very clutch items as well in the form of an IE onto the 3-star. Samira, will we continue to see these kinds of drops? I know that it's been fixed a little bit, giving you better items than it has before, but is this exactly what Ashmu will need? Another good fight? Hopefully. Did be probably one of the stronger boards we've seen in the lobby, though, right now.
Yeah, and now we're looking at Relic's board, which is looking plenty strong as well, has turned that Radiant Archangels into a Karthus headliner, has 7 Pentakill online, which we know is the real big power spike. Got items on the Viego and has managed to hit this Yorick. Now, not with the tank or the carry items that you typically like to see, but lots of good itemization on this board. The Karthus now has the damage amp that they need. They have the Rabadons. They have this scaling thing, but no mana gen, or excuse me, the Spear of Shojin. It's coming out, but it's coming out slow. Are the ghouls going to be able to hold on long enough for this thing to cast again? It looks like they are. And Relic securing a victory by 1 HP on that Karthus. And what an incredible lobby that we're seeing. We're seeing so many people playing such interesting ways. Some of them obvious and transparent from 2-1, and some of them just the most interesting TFT I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, same. Could not agree more with you there, Rain. These boards are starting to get super capped, and it's a triple prismatic. I mean, this lobby has been dropping like flies left and right. The summer camp players both go down in 7th and 8th. I think somebody got to their T or something, because these guys are both really, really solid players. As we just saw, Tarzan won the last lobby with literally a very similar comp, just was not able to figure it out here at the end, not get to that power spike that they had last time. The thing for me here is, does elect to go for a tank item, and we are missing some items, I feel, for either like this Akali or even potentially, you know, just I guess we do just need that extra bit of frontline, as we saw in that last fight, to get this Karthus through these fights.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big battle of, is this Yone going to make it to the Karthus? We do have Viego applying that Morello, but will it be enough? The Yone is now on the back line. The Karthus is down, and it looks like Relic is going down as well, going out here with 10 HP. Ashmu still holding on, and it remains to be seen if they're going to be able to pull it off. They are not. Ashmu going down with 11 HP, and it's exactly like we said, those 1 HP little differences that happen even early in the game makes such a difference in these placements. Relic eking out a 5th by 1 HP, and we now have our top 4.
And as we see, we do have Domper here leading the pack with 44 HP. That is only 3 more than Nihil, and the other 2 are down. Chaos with about 2 fights left in them if they keep taking these losses in this stage at this point. 24 HP, and Marine on to 12. That's 1 fight if it is not almost perfect. And up against this Yone board.
And the Yone, again, it's all about that positioning, but the Nami here with the Rage Blade going to be able to get off a lot of casts. They are CCing this thing, and they're able to burst it down. The Morello on the TF being a huge difference maker, being able to apply that anti-heal across the board onto the Yones, and Marine pulling off a victory despite not having the ideal positioning. That Nami is an absolute menace.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Doing tons of damage there, and also getting off a little extra CC that they needed to have come down there. I think a Thresh Hook actually did save the life of TF. TF there in that fight that really did swing the tides. And we do see an Amumu 3 being found by Chaos here, though. That could be exactly what they need to win this lobby.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, Z-Boy, you've played, hundreds of games this set, I think twice as many as I have, so you know the tech way better than I do. Is double Triforce on Thresh best in slot?
Oh, this, as we would say, as our gamer terms, best in slot on a Thresh. I think it does some stuff, like give HP. I'm not sure about those other stats going to Thresh, but hoping to probably find a Yorick, transfer those babies to a Yorick, and you are looking prime though. And we do get in a little bit more CC in the form of Lulu here and some extra damage as well. And look at this, that positioning I've been talking about the entire time finally comes out and has the exact spot they need to be to try to dodge these Giga Lasers from this Lux 3.
Yeah, we haven't seen this Lux most of this game, but it has been hovering out there. Domper sitting at the top of the lobby, and it is a question of whether this TF can dodge. It doesn't dodge, and it doesn't need to. It gets a little bit of a cast off right before losing to that Dazzler proc. Can the front line now sustain and do enough to this Lux? The Thresh hooks might be the difference. If he can land another one onto this Lux, that might be it. Here comes the cast. She barely lives and then dies right at the last second, and that is going to be all she wrote. If that Thresh had just a few more stats, might have been a difference maker.
My God. The Thresh with the double Triforce was actually almost there. Needed one more crit. That was the difference maker there. Needed one more crit, and down would have went the Lux 3. Would have kept Marina alive just a little longer. At least if they'd killed another unit as well. It was that was the difference, right? Needs to just kill one more unit, and they lived that fight. But it just wasn't in the cards. And here we are now with this insane Yone board, fully capped out now at 6 Crowd Diver, and almost has both of those Yones perfectly itemized.
Yeah, and he does have this Twin Terror on the Yone and now on the Zed, was able to go 9 and find another Zed to slot in, empowering yet another unit on this board. Now up against the Lux board, the Yone is taking so much damage, but every time it's able to cast, it heals right up, and Domper taking a big loss. Nihil tightening the gap and now taking first place there. One of the crazy things about playing this Twin Terror is, you chunked down one of my Yones? It's fine, I've got a backup. No carry is safe from this terror.
No, not at all, especially when it's the twins of Yone. This is like the 2 towers of edgelords. They're just chopping things up left and right. Got the lifesteal, got the scalability and the sterics, and has the extra shred that they need on the perfect item. Look at this itemized Viego rain. It is beautiful. They're getting shred. They're getting burn. This board is treacherous, and I'm learning things right now.
Yeah, and this is Yasuo Nightmare, and as we're looking around, we have the Viego on the Lux, and yeah, Yone, you repositioned, you went the other way, it's fine. I've got 7 carries on my board. No one is safe, nothing is sacred, and here it is, another closer win for Nihil going into this carousel. What does Domper have to do to survive and hold on to a first place finish?
I think just keep praying, honestly. Might need to get that Lux into like a center spot or something. But then again, what are you to do? There's 12 carries on the other board. They're all running you down. All things that go bump in the night are really here. Look at this Kane too. Doesn't need items and gets a beautiful support cash out as well, just to make the board a little bit stronger.
Yeah, if it couldn't get any worse for Domper here, getting that Aegis out there, empowering the team in such a dramatic fashion is going to be a huge benefit to this board. Time will tell, where they decide to put it, but they do now slot that Yone in, protect them a little bit, get them into that Aegis. But we've seen this Yone get a little bit low. Is it going to be able to now get to this Lux that is on the opposite side? This might be the positioning difference difference that Dumpster needed. Can Lux get these ults onto this Yone in time, chunking it down to just a little bit of health, but it doesn't seem to matter. This Yone just can't be killed, and there's the Zed finishing things off. This is Nihil's game to win. That's going to be it for Dumper, and that is going to be it for Game 4 of ACL Week 2.
Wow. What a banger. We got so lucky with our
we got crazy lucky.
That was so nuts. I mean, it's easy work for casters when the lobbies are just popping off, going crazy, doing things that you never expect. We were talking about this. By we, I mean me. I said, yo, Rain, take a look. This meta's figured out. These guys are going to be doing this cookie cutter stuff we already know. Nah, Z-Boy couldn't be more wrong. And that's what makes Aegis so great.
Yeah, I did not have Twin Terror Yone reroll on my ACL bingo card for this entire set, let alone for this game. Yeah. No. Do you have it? No. I don't think they printed it on the bingo cards, because what are the odds that is what we would see to close out this week 2? Just some absolutely stunning innovation and just thoughtful pivots, thoughtful play from our players, seeing the lobby, seeing the state of things, making the right pivot, making the right call, and securing that first from such a unpredictable spot.
Right. I mean, when we see that Twin Terror come down, we're usually so used to those executioners, but goes in, scouts it out, sees, oh wait, this Yone unit's open. Oh, also, I had all these dank items from my awesome Olaf carry for a while. So let's go this route. Yeah, this seems like a good spot to be. And that's exactly what they did, and they take down the lobby. What a great way to showcase the skill gap that can be done when you just know what to do by scouting. We talked about this. That can be the difference. That's all it really takes, is seeing the lines that nobody else is on and hitting your board caps.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's going to be it for us here at Aegis for week 2 of ACL. We have more games coming up this weekend, AML and our AAL showcase tomorrow afternoon, and that's going to be a banger as well. Our AML players are also absolutely cracked. It's always really fun to watch. It's always really fun to commentate. Speaking of commentators, I'm Rain101. You can find me on twitch.tv/Rain101. You can find me on Twitter and what other social media you might want to find me on. Go and drop me a follow. I stream when I feel like it. Unlike this guy over here who streams like a madman, Z-Boy Wonder, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Z-Boy Wonder on Twitch. That's just twitch.tv/Z-Boy Wonder. Find me over there streaming, talking way too much about TFT, this game that we are here casting, that you all are here watching, showing up. I'm a part of an awesome study group, Summer Camp. You can find us on Discord over there. Well, it's not like an open one, but yeah, those are my boys. I'd like to shout them out.
You'll see us around.
But most importantly, find me on my socials as well, at Z-Boy Wonder TV on Twitter, on Instagram, on really wherever you find your social media. TikTok as well. I got some bangers over there. But
True.
Be on the lookout for more epic games coming to you this weekend from Aegis. If you're not following the channel yet, make sure you are, so you're getting those notifications. You don't miss out on any of the epic gameplay or the epic casting that we have for you here.